Hello and good evening, everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing fine. Everyone can hear me and see me okay. We're starting soon. We're starting now. Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome, Deadly D8. You've done it. A live stream is happening. It is spells, so hopefully that is what you signed up for. Our spells streams are definitely a unique one. Welcome everyone who's here. London Matthews here. Deadly D8, of course, is here as well. What else we got here? That might be it. We only got 11 people here, so everyone's still climbing in, and we'll get in there. If this were where I signed up for LeshyCon. Howdy, Ryan Adams. Welcome, 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 welcome. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Satir is here. This is not where you sign up for LeshyCon, but welcome. Yeah, unfortunately, the damage has been done for Fistful of Flowers. If you weren't here last time, I created what I thought unachievable goal, especially for a stream, a spell stream, and Mr. Self-Confessed Cynic himself made sure that we hit that, so that we will not only be playing A Fistful of Flowers, which is the upcoming Leshy-focused Tea Party adventure for Free RPG Day, but I am going to be forced to cosplay. So that is going to be a fun little time there. I'm in the middle of changing some of my setup, so I might be a little disoriented today. Because I am in the process of sort of recreating thing. I want to switch this whole office around. Ostensibly, this is just my third bedroom, which kind of was not used for anything. And then I sort of made it an office for my girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, but she never really ended up using it, and we kind of converted another room in the house into a more of like a studio for her. And so anyway, so then I kind of took it over as my office. I had a friend living with me for about a year during COVID. He left San Francisco because of the wildfires and COVID, and he wanted to save money on rent. And I was running my own business, and it was struggling. And so he took this room. So then he had this room for like a year. So again, I didn't really have a whole lot to do with it. And so when he moved out, I just moved a bunch of stuff in here, and I said, okay, I'll just set up camp here. And this is where we've been. And then all these books behind me used to be up at my original studio, my photography studio, which is where we filmed the very first season, or at least most of the first season of Rise of the Rune Lords. And when I lost that studio, or rather when I downsized to the current studio, I didn't know where I was going to go with it at the time, so I just brought them all back home, and I just stuck them into this office. Anyways, long story short, I kind of want to build a desk. I'm a woodworker, if you didn't know that, and make myself a perfect streaming setup. And I actually kind of want to put my desk against that wall, the wall with the closet, and then have it basically be this wall, the wall that I'm currently looking at, would be where I would put all my books and stuff. So I'm kind of in the process of starting to shift things around, and maybe things will be changing here in the next couple of days or weeks or months or something like that. But I definitely want to get a better, focused setup so that I can do these live streams, especially our new AP, do those a lot better, and just be in a better spot to sort of performance manage those. It's kind of bonus and extra, but what I really want to do, I own a teleprompter. And what I really like to do is put this camera here into my teleprompter, and then have a monitor reflecting me, say like the Zoom call with the other guys, the other knights, faces in them, or with the chat right here. So instead of, the chat is being right here. So if I'm looking at the chat, I'm kind of not looking at the camera. The chat would actually be over the lens. So that way when I'm looking into the lens, I'm actually also looking at the chat. So that way it's a little easier for me. I don't have to swing back and forth. Please set up so you're slightly further from the camera. I don't know what that means. What, you want to see more of my room? I feel like that is I feel like that's something that like people do because they have shitty cameras. When you have like a small, you know, your traditional webcam, even a quote unquote expensive webcam, it has such a wide field of view. It doesn't actually mean that you're further away from the camera. It's just, you know, it's like, right? People are used to seeing shots like this, right? Like that's a really, really wide field of view. And so most crappy desktop cameras, you know, the lens on this camera costs $2,000. So I actually prefer a tighter framing so that you don't see this. But people, I think, are used to these sort of hyper extended, really wide field of views. So unfortunately, in that case, you get to see my lights. So there we go. Anyways, hello, welcome. So, total entropy. No, this is garbage compared to what I have at the studio. Are you kidding me? At the studio, I have several $1,000s of there we go. Hello, how are we? How is everybody doing today? No. All right. Let me zoom out. Yeah, this is just a 24 to 70 millimeter. So again, I'm being pedantic here because yes, I am, I guess, still am, but I used to be a photographer. Further isn't like I'm not actually further from the camera right now, right? Like I'm just as Michael G uses a 7D Mark II that used to just be photography. Now it's just a fancy webcam. Well, that is kind of what this is. This is my EOS Canon R5, Canon's current flagship mirrorless DSLR, mirrorless camera, and it used to be my primary photography camera that I used to do portraits and headshots and weddings with, but now it's basically just it's just a very glorified webcam. I think the body on this thing is like $3,600 or something, and the lens on it's like $2,000. So it's like a $5,000, $6,000 camera setup. Don't recommend. I mean, you don't need it, but yeah, for lighting, again, because this was a thrown together situation, I just grabbed a couple of these cheap Elgato panel lights and threw those up next to me. What I want to take is my better studio lighting, my Westcott LED panels, which are like thousands of dollars. And that just gives me a much bigger, softer light. So tip of advice for anybody who wants to live stream or anything like that. If you want a soft light, okay, so that your light that is on your face doesn't look like you're in harsh shadows, right? So that the shadows are just pure black and that the bright side of your face, you got to get that light big relative to your face, right? So it's like a window. It's got to be big, which means it either needs to be really, really big or it needs to be really, really close to you because, see, even though this light here isn't that big, right, it's very close to me. And so from my perspective, this thing is like, it's like sitting next to, it's like the window seat on an airplane. It's like right in my face. And so that makes it look like a softer light than what you might see from like, a typical stream where someone might have a much harsher setup. Again, I'm being here. Like if I was like, like over here, like you'd get this really, really super harsh sight that like, it's like someone looks like that. Right, like this. I mean, I'm kind of trolling it a little bit, but like this is what some streamers look like because they have this one bright source of light, and it's really far away from them. And it's really far away from them, by the way, because their camera's far away from them, or because, again, a lot of the webcams have a very wide field of view. This is 24 millimeters. A lot of webcams are 24 millimeters or wider, so it's kind of like this, right? But what you do is you can bring this light in really, really close. And obviously that's, really freaking bright. And so then, you know, I can turn the light down a bit, and then I can make it a softer light, and then that makes it, you know, less obtuse and less obnoxious. Anyways, let me turn my other light here. Anyways, all right. Anyways, fun times. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe we'll figure something out with the patrons. We'll do some sort of lighting tutorial 101 or something like that. But I don't know exactly what my setup's going to be like. But Vin says, actually, that wider view would be for the wide shot with just you in the chat, and the tighter view would be for your headshot in the corner. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of cool. It's hard to do because, again, my camera actually has like a thing. What I would have to do is digitally crop, which I could do. I could do that. Again, I love the Isan the Wandering Bard thumbnail. Well, thank you, Kevin. Not a great card, not very playable. It was good in draft. I think it was mad. It was like Core 2016 or something, Core 2015. One of those. It was okay. It was like a very slow, probably, like it was obviously a fixed birthing pod attempt, but it was still wasn't really that great. But do I ever get headaches from the high contrast of the lighting versus other things in the room? No, I'm kind of used to it at this point, Henry. And because the lights are so close to me, Henry, they're really, really turned down. Like this light here, let's see, this one right here is only at like at 10%, and this one's only at a couple percent. So they're actually quite dim. They're just really, really, really close to me. So, yes, you want me to have just the complete side lighting? Right. There we go. We can just, there we go. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to this. We will have this really crazy dual light setup here. Yes, I could be super edgy now, and I could be like, welcome to the stream.
I am strong, strong, strong.
Right, there we go. Ominous vibes. All right, I like it. Get the two-tone light. Anyways, I'm really messing up all my lights now. Hey, Eon Ryder, welcome. Ominous vibes, yeah. All right, let me actually fix my stuff here, just because it'll bother me. 5,500, 5,600. All right. All right. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, Occult. Thank you, Damian Williams. I appreciate it. I try, you know. I mean, again, I don't. It's a tough thing to do. Like, you know, I obviously there are bad webcams, and then there are good webcams, and then there are great webcams. But in all honesty, like, you know, the very worst webcams are going to be like a 1 or 2 out of 10. But even the very best webcams are going to be only maybe like a 4. Like you're going to double the quality easily, but you're going from like a 1 or a 2 to like a 3 or a 4. And deadly D8, since this is a cult spell, the only light that says 1 under the chin. Gosh, you guys are really pushing me on this one, huh? I'm curious now to see what that would look like, though. So let's take a look. Get the horror lighting. Here we go. Maybe. Ooh. All right. Occult it is. Welcome. Unfortunately, this microphone makes a shadow on my face. See, it looks a lot better when I don't have the microphone in the way. Welcome, adventurers, to another realm, a realm of darkness. Without the mic boom, that would be awesome. Yeah, no, it probably would be good. We could have some fun with that. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, we really are having fun. Now I really need to do Chronicles of Darkness. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, if you ever have any questions about photography, videography, lighting, sound, I'm a little, I'm a novice on, but most of the rest of the stuff I'm pretty straight on. I can give you some good tips or advice. I like a 2-to-1 lighting ratio with soft fallout, and I'm about a 5600 color white balance. Yeah, that's Ben for sound events advice. He's much better than me. Did I mess something up? He's saying that. Oh yeah, maybe you're right. I didn't recorrect my key. Oh, you're correct. There we go. There we go. All right. That should be better. Okay. Just keep it about sound, not sound device. Like sound. You mean like, I was going to make some sort of occult joke here, but I couldn't actually think of one. So let's talk about spells, I guess, right? That's what we came here for, ostensibly, periodically. Hopefully this works. It does. Yay. All right. So we are on to the occult. And this is a little small, so let me zoom in on that. There we go. Nice and set up there for us. Spells and Leshy time. Yes. So as written today, I have us programmed to go through about half of the occult spells. And last time we went through all of the primal ones, but that's because we hit our tip goal and we were crazy. We went for like 3.5 hours. Oh my God, what's the tip goal for you to wear wizard robes during these spell streams? We're not there yet. I don't have wizard robes. That would be compelling. It's a good idea though. But yeah, so again, I like to typically have these go for about 2.5 hours. But if we keep a lot of people in the chat and we're keeping the energy high and the tips are good, maybe we'll keep going through all of them. So, but we're starting here. We're starting here with Aromatic Lure. It's our first spell. We already have a couple spells, by the way, baked in from our previous one. So, Fey Form, Hallucinatory Terrain, Blood Spray Curse, Fly, Countless Eyes, Compel True Name. So, now this is interesting. We start off with a rare spell from Legends, which is a really weird book, personally, I think. It's probably my least favorite book, actually, that Pathfinder 2 has come out with. It's got a lot of tags on it we don't like. It's got emotion. It's got incapacitation. It's got mental. It's got that incapacitation, though. 2 actions, 60 feet will save. You override their olfactory senses. We are starting off strong. Luring them to a specific location with tantalizing sense. Choose a single square within range that is not hazardous and not occupied. The target is drawn to the location and becomes euphoric upon arrival. The target must make attempted will save. Again, I hate the spell templating in Pathfinder 2. If I read this, I would go, okay, so I select a square, they go to that square, they become euphoric, and then they make a will save. Like that's how I read that spell. Like that in Magic the Gathering, that is how a spell would be templated. You just read down what it does. Like this should say, the first line should be, the target must attempt a will save. That should just be the first line of text. Like, tell me what I need to do first. Like, Like that's how that should be. It's weird that that works any other way other than that. Anyways, it's a will save, even though it's affecting your senses. If they crit, they're unaffected. If they succeed, they just become stupefied 1 for a round, which is a pretty weak condition. The target is stupefied 2 and moves towards the selected location via the most direct route possible for 1 round, bypassing any obstacles or enemies in the way. So, man, there's a level 4 spell, by the way. So for you put a very minor buff on them, very minor debuff, and then you make them move. What's interesting, so the target has to be a creature, but then you're selecting a square within range. So in theory, you could select, a place where they're basically going to have to spend their whole turn moving to that space. So, but it's got incapacitation, right? Because, I mean, again, the most, likely condition is that they're going to fail or succeed. It is incapacitation. And so, if they're over here and you pick a spot over here, they're going to basically just, they spend their whole turn moving is basically what it comes down to. It's incapacitation because basically it's not quite a stun 3 or like a paralyze for 1 round, but it's fairly close. I mean, this isn't the worst spell. I agree. Like you can make a creature like a spellcaster come in to your front line and yeah, exactly, Kevin. It's like a time walk. It's not the worst spell. Incapacitate. I mean, I think this spell would probably be like a B, but I think incapacitation makes it a C. It really limits what you would want to use it for. Swing Ripper, that's a great point too. It obviously is designed to be used against spellcasters because of, stupefied is really where you want to be using that. But it is a will save. So it is kind of interesting. So I think C. Yeah, they'll still provoke attacks of opportunity. That is true, but they will bypass any enemies in the way. So, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, you could obviously set this up to be a really great set of conditions, but I think the fact that it is rare for some reason, I don't know why. Probably just because we're from Legends, but the fact that it is emotion, enchantment, incapacitation, mental, and I think the success condition is pretty weak. So I think C is a fine place to be. Bestial Curse, we already did from our Divine. That one got a GMD. And next we're up to Blink. Blink's a pretty cool spell. I kind of like what they did with it in this edition. It's a standard combat duration buff. In that it lasts 1 minute. So kind of hard to pre-buff this unless you really know that you're literally about to go into combat. And again, in past editions, Blink effectually functioned kind of like concealment in that you had a % miss chance, but not because of visual issues, but because you simply weren't on the material plane at the time that they would attack. And you could walk through solid objects, but the further you walked through a solid object, the greater the chance was that you would appear back into the material plane and be shunted. So it was really good for walking through like a door or a pillar or even like a singular foe. But it kind of captured some of that essence here, but not quite. So, I mean, flat out, you get resistance 5 to all damage except force. And that's very much in keeping with the flavor that you are blinking to the ethereal plane, and things like magic missile and stuff can work into the ethereal flame. You can sustain the spell. Now, the duration is 1 minute, so you don't have to sustain the spell. But when you do sustain the spell, which again is a weird way of templating it, I think it'd be cool if, personally, what I would like to see this spell say, the way I would build this spell, is I would give you some resistance to damage. I would make it more than 5. I think almost everything that's in the game, roughly speaking, could be like maybe not quite doubled, but like if this was like resistance 8, right? I think resistance 8 might feel correct. It might feel better. You're level 7 or 8 when you're casting this. It's your highest level spell. And, but anyways, the way I would do this is that when this spell was cast, it just gives you a new action. And that action would be a 1 action concentrate, and basically would let you teleport 10 feet. The random direction part, it says, in a random direction determined by the GM. That seems like an oxymoron. I guess the GM has to determine the random direction you go. It's very strange. But in addition, at the end of the turn, you automatically vanish and reappear as well, randomly. So in this version of the game, you're literally blinking around the battlefield automatically once per round, but you could also do it at somewhat will and kind of blink around the battlefield a little bit. It's a pretty cool spell. I mean, it's flavorful. It's fun. I don't know how good the heighten is. Gaining 3 resistance getting 3 resistance for heightening to level 6 seems pretty crazy. It doesn't seem that great, but it's a solid defensive buff. There could be no doubt about that. And I think it's very flavorful, and it's definitely doing something very fun and magical, very arcane, occulty. I like the spell. I'd probably say it's a B. I don't think it's an A, but I mean it's I think it's pretty good. I like that it's not, force effects are pretty reasonably rare in the game. So I like B for that. Blood Spray Curse is another one that we did. We gave that one a B. Call the Blood, another one that we did. That was a GMC. And now we get to Chroma Leech. Sap the colors and vitality from a creature. Oh. Though, we got an occult only spell. So something to keep in mind. If we don't like it here, no one else is getting it. 2 actions, touch. Yikes. Has to be a living creature. Can't Chroma Leech undead or constructs. And they have to make a fort save. Boy, you love to see it. You just love to see it. That gnome trait really coming through strong. Okay. Your hand glows. You touch them and you sap them. Right. On a successful save, they're enfeebled 2 for 1 round. All right. That's -2 to attack, -2 to damage. That's okay. If they fail, they are enfeebled 2 for 1 minute and drained 1. Okay, -2 basically for the whole fight. And drained 1. They're also filled with listlessness and ennui. And for 1 round, if the target tries to use any sort of move action, it has to make a will save or the action is lost. So that is a reasonable set of debuffs. Drain 1 is a -1 to your constitution saves, and you're also going to lose some hit points. So that is something. Yeah, I get that gnomes suffer from bleaching. And it's it's flavorful, I guess, but it's a little strange, right? Here's a great question, right? Not to get off on an initial rant. Should something like this be in the game? Or is that why we have game masters? Right? Like if I was playing a GM-less game, this seems like the type of rules text that would be in the game. But I can tell you, at my table, at Aaron's table, pretty much at every table I've ever played, if somebody were to cast this, and it was cast against a gnome, and we were fairly up to date with our gnome lore, and someone would go, because here's the thing, if you don't know anything about gnomes and Golarion, if you don't know about anything, this might not even make sense to you. But if someone went, oh man, I'm draining color from a gnome. Shouldn't they like totally get like a penalty to the save, or shouldn't this totally be more effective against them? And like the GM would go, yeah, they totally should be. I'm going to make a ruling that says that, you know, that they are. I just feel like this specific line of text is the kind of thing I don't need and I don't want rules for. Because this isn't a balancing act to this spell. This is just, you know, Jose Martinez, I think that's a very, maybe you're right. And if you are right, like that's very weird. I mean, do people feel like they're being targeted if my monsters attack them? PF2's social contract by default is combat as sport, where the rules cover everything. That's an interesting way to look at it as well. So if it was Dungeon World, I would agree with you. Modern gamers just hate systems that give GMs fiat. That's why SR6 is so unpopular with some. You know, I don't do spells need fluff in the text? I mean, I agree with what Chad is saying, that Pathfinder 2 is a fairly gamist game, and it's written in a very adversarial manner. That kind of adversarial manner that the players are going to feel like the GM is trying to screw them over, and so the game is trying to hold them down. Yeah, the ruling might be for Pathfinder Society again to sort of prevent that. It's just such a weird thing to put onto a spell. So, anyways, it's an okay debuff. This again, it's enfeebled, which you want to put onto big, you know, melee characters, and it's a fort save, and it's touch. So as a spellcaster, that means you have to be up close and personal with these melee people, and then they get to make a fort save. So that's probably not great. And also, too, by the way, the critical failure isn't functionally the critical failure isn't that different from our point of view. Yes, they are permanently enfeebled too, but that doesn't matter, right? The foes don't survive the fight. Yeah, I mean, sure, Swing Ripper. This is a great example of where you would do this, but would I spend 3 rounds or 3 actions my entire turn to cast the spell? Probably not. I mean, I'll say this. I will say this. Sadly, it doesn't have incapacitation, and the success condition is that they're enfeebled 2 for 1 round, -2 to attack. The enfeebled making a penalty to damage, by the way, is insulting. While I would not want to be in melee with a boss type monster, like I'm very happy taking 2 actions on my turn and casting slow, and having the boss type creature succeed at their saving throw and get a slowed one. So if this was cast upon the boss and it's a melee type boss, and the melee type boss got a -2 penalty to attacks and a -2 penalty to damage, which again is mostly irrelevant, but -2 penalty to attack for a round, even on a successful saving throw. Yeah, I mean, that's something. And on the off chance that they do fail, they're basically enfeebled 2 for the whole fight, and you take a little chunk of hit points off of them as well. So, and you get this little added benefit that it makes it hard for them to potentially move around, especially since that then targets their will save. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know that I would give it a separate GM rating, but I think it's a reasonable debuff against the right type of monster, and the right type of foe in the right situation. So I'll give it a Chroma Leech. The Flickmasters will die today. All right. How about this? If your character had adopted Ancestry Gnome, would you say that counts enough for them to have like the gnome trait, and then they would get at least a -1 penalty? The spell was designed to combat gnomish flick. Well, that's the thing. Gnomes don't actually wield gnomish flick maces, right? It's all adopted humans who who grew up with the gnomes. It's never actually the gnomes themselves. Chromatic armor is our next one. Oh, and before I get into it, just a reminder, about who we are. We're the Knights of Last Call. We are a channel that is run by me and some of my close personal friends. And we talk about role-playing games. A lot of Pathfinder 2 the last couple years because we've been into that. But we talk about other RPGs as well. And we're talking about Pathfinder 2 tonight. And if you're interested in joining us in those conversations, we usually go live every Tuesday and Thursday. And just this past Tuesday, we kicked off our second Pathfinder 2 Adventure Path actual play. We're doing Quest for the Frozen Flame. We had a really great turnout, by the way. 135 viewers, which is our all-time high. So we're very, very proud of that, very happy about that. We appreciate it. If you came out and you joined us and you supported us, thanks for doing that. And if you watched the VOD later, that's cool too. We really appreciate that. And if you're interested, though, in joining us and being part of the more behind-the-scenes conversations, as well as a very, 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 very active Discord with a ton of benefits, check us out, patreon.com/Knights of Last Call. Link is in the description below. And meanwhile, if you're here tonight and you want to make sure that your voice is heard and distributed to the internet, you can go ahead and give us a tip via Stream Elements. You can type !tip in chat. That'll give you the link to our Stream Elements tip page. You can also find a link down below as well. You can also use Google Super Chat, but that's going to make a little fun thing pop up on screen. And if you do a tip, it'll even read your message to us, and I'll make sure to immediately get to your point. But it's just more of a way of showing thanks and appreciation. And don't worry, we're going to do these regardless if anybody paid me, because I said I would do it, and that's what I do. Lastly, if you're feeling very foolish with your money and you want silly custom emotes and loyalty badges, you can join the quest and become an adventurer for the Knights of Last Call. There's a join button below, which will let you sign up to be a member of our YouTube channel. We call these our adventurers. You'll get a green name. You'll get a bevy of custom emotes that only you can use. And, of course, you get a loyalty badge showing how long you have been an adventurer with the Knights of Last Call. Yes, things like Math is Tight and Mr. Jason Bullman himself. Deadly D8 says, test. I don't know if he meant to say test, but he said test. Whoa. There we go. All right. Thank you, Deadly D8, for your test. I'll take it. I appreciate it. Thank you. So that was my spiel. If you're interested in supporting us, thank you. If not, that's good. Oh, Deadly D8, you're wanting to know why? Okay, sorry. Tips do tips do our text to speech. So super chats from YouTube do not do our text to speech, unfortunately. But Deadly D8, welcome. I appreciate that. But yeah, we have it set up that the tip does a text to speech, but the super chat just does this. But maybe you knew that and you're just testing and it's delayed or something. In which case, screw you, YouTube. But thank you for the $4. We appreciate you. Thank you, Deadly D8. If you don't know, Deadly D8, also a fellow YouTuber, creating some really cool stuff. They actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I assume this is Eli. I think you guys just had Mark on, right? Maybe you had Mark and Steven on. And I really want to go check that out. So if you enjoy Roll for Combat and you enjoy Mark and Steven and some of my conversations, check them out. I think they just did a video on Deadly D8's page. So I think they're talking about monsters. It showed up in my feed. I got to watch it. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right, where are we at? We are at Chromatic Armor. Yikes. This is going to be bad. That's my prediction. All right. It is 2 or 3 actions, touches a creature, and it lasts for a minute. You wrap the target in armor made of sheets of colored light. The armor sheds bright light for 20 feet, dim light for the next 20 feet. Whenever a creature attacks the target and is adjacent to it, the attacker must make a will save. On a failure, it becomes dazzled. Regardless of the results of the save, they are immune until the end of its next turn. Wow, there's a lot of tracking that's going to be going on with this spell, especially since it's not the end of this turn, it's the end of its next turn. I don't like this duration here. Basically, they attack you, and then regardless of what happens, they are immune not just for the rest of this turn, but they are immune essentially in their next turn as well. So I don't like that. When you cast the spell, roll 1d8 twice on the table to see the armor's color. Each color grants resistance 5 to the indicated damage type. If you spend 3 actions, you get 3 results. So guess what? You get random resistance. It could be totally fine, or it could be completely worthless. Cedric said it best. I am going to give this spell an F. All right, moving on. Completely. I agree with what Self-Confessed Cynic said, which is that they have small elements of coolness in them, but they overall are sort of seas of trash. The Dazzled isn't bad at all. This is better. Ian Ryder, it's a level 4 spell. We can do a lot better than Dazzled. The fact that the meat of the spell is random resistance, and yeah, I fundamentally disagree with that, Ian Ryder. I think the spell does not work. I think this is a spell that is designed to grant you resistance, and it does so randomly, and I think that is horrible. I think that's awful. Damien is completely correct. That would be very cool. I would love that. I think specifically with defense, it is unthinkable for it to be random. I think you're really undervaluing how bad randomness is. I agree, Ryan. They do, which is why they don't like role-playing games, because role-playing games are all about randomness. Interesting. Kevin says, I think the meat of the spell is the dazzling. Hey, look, I'd be happy to look at it on the upper edge of F. Okay, I'll go with you. Upper edge of F. I'll go upper edge of F. So, yeah, but yada, yada, yada. Like, all right, Brovleth, you take care. Enjoy. Bob, I thought you were running a game tonight. Hey,
DD8 tipped $5. Hello?
There it is. Deadly D8, thank you for the tip. Oh, it's okay, Anthony. We just talked about photography, camera, lighting choices, and how focal length can affect the appearance of where a person is. Chromatic Armor is a flavorful roleplay spell that chews up a spell slot that should be used for more than just flavor. Don't justify its existence at that level. And I also completely agree with Self-Confessed Cynic. There are far easier ways to get Concealment or Dazzle that don't use up your level 4. If it had the potential to dazzle every turn instead of every other turn, would that make it a D? I think so, yes. Because I said that at the beginning of the spell before I even got to the random resistance part. I said, I don't like this templating that if it fails, then it doesn't get to a chance to affect me every round. It should just be like Sanctuary, where it gives you 1 round of dazzled, and then it could dazzle you the next round. That would be better. I agree with you, Ian Ryder. Because in this situation, even if it is dazzling people, it's essentially not going to be able to dazzle them for multiple rounds in a row. So it's kind of silly. Moving on to Chromatic Ray, another chromatic spell. We've got a 2-action, 30-foot 1 creature. So we got a very, very short range spell. Rebalance to choosing 1 result for all chromatic spells instead of random. I mean, part of the shtick of these spells is the randomness. I just don't know how you, I don't know how you properly adjust for it. Again, I don't mind it as much for offensive spells, because I think with defensive spells, again, I'm a big believer that defensive spells have to unnecessarily be better than the equivalent offensive spell, because a defensive spell will never win you the game. I know I talk about a lot about Magic the Gathering on this spell, this channel, but you know, something like a lightning bolt, which does damage, and then something like a counter spell, which can counter a lightning bolt. But the counter spell has to be better than lightning bolt, because lightning bolt will win you the game. It can get your opponent to 0 life points. It doesn't matter how good a counter spell is. A counter spell will never, by its own, win you the game. It's purely a defensive spell. So it needs to be very compelling in order to make a reasonable approach. It's one of the reasons why I don't like any of the counteract specific counteract spells. Arguably, Dispel Magic suffers from the same problem, but it's just so broad and versatile that I give it a better nod. So, Chromatic Ray, you make a spell attack roll. So this is a very short range spell attack roll. And now, ironically, you get this spell at level 7, and this is a fun level for casters because you've been really behind. You've been 3 points of attack bonus behind for a couple levels now because all the monsters' AC went up when the marshals got their +1 weapon, and then they went up again when the marshals became experts in their weapon proficiency. And now finally at level 7, you too have expert spellcasting proficiency. You still don't have that +1 potency rune though, so your spell attack is still 1 point behind the marshal's equivalent melee attack, but at least it's not 3 points behind. But you're still having to roll against AC. It's still not great. And with a 30-foot range, yikes. And you get to roll 1d4, and you see what happens. And you either get fire for 30, acid for 40, electricity for 50, or poison for 25, and a fort save or be enfeebled. So, it's another awesome but actually meh spell. And I tend to agree with it. I don't think that this spell is particularly compelling. Fundamentally, I like what they did here with, at least with the poison. They made it kind of cool and interesting because it does something different. But all of these are just, hey, unless the creature specifically has resisted weakness to fire. And by the way, even if it does have weakness to fire, it's probably weakness 10. So you would still rather it get hit with electricity, even if it is weakness 10 to fire, because weakness 10 to fire is just 40, and hitting it with electricity is 50. So these are just fundamentally not compelling, fun, random chances, because they're basically all the same. So I don't really like this spell. I don't think it's particularly cool or interesting. It works, it functions, it does damage, but I think we can do better, so... it's a D for me. I guess it is occult. So, occult might not get as many damage spells. So this might be a situation where I would say arcane is probably a D, but maybe occult is a C. So I don't know. We could think about that. By the way, if you heighten this thing all the way from a level 4 spell to a level 6 spell, the red, orange, and yellow got 10 extra points of damage. Wow. Just heighten your magic missile. Yeah, that's probably the correct choice. Points for being a non-creepy occult spell. I like that. All right. I'm going to put it right here on the border of C and D because it's a cult, and cult doesn't get a lot of damage spells, and this does give them a damage spell. So, they get magic missile, so they pretty much don't need a damage spell, but, it's probably right there. Okay, what's next? We get Clairvoyance. So this is a bread and butter divination spell. Takes 1 minute to cast, lasts for 10 minutes, 500 feet, and you create an invisible eye within range, even if it is outside of your line of sight or line of effect. Boom. This is a S tier scroll. I don't think, if you really think there's any opinion otherwise to this, I'd love to hear the thought on that. But, obviously, if you're going on recon mission mode and you're a prepared caster, you can load up a bunch of these and keep them ready to go. But especially as you get higher level and the cost of a level 4 scroll becomes trivial, why wouldn't you have, 3 or 4 or 5 of these just packed away? If you ever need to know what's going on down in the dungeon or in the next room or on the other side of the woods, But you're supposed to be a strongly opinion person, and putting the spell on the border between tiers is peak. Leave me be. I just want to grill. All right, fine. We'll put it to D. You know what's funny too? Somehow this divination spell isn't uncommon. So they are okay with you casting this type of spell. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? we saw at lower levels that some random divination spells were uncommon. You know what? Yeah, I mean the duration's 10 minutes, so you could basically set up your invisible sensor to eavesdrop on or not eavesdrop, but eavesee on a meeting. You know, enough time to actually see what's going on. But you know, the idea is this spell doesn't need to heighten. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is a wand. The only reason I would say it's not a wand is like sometimes I might want to cast it more than once, but you know, I don't know. There we go. We'll put it there. I think it's great. I mean, at early levels, get it as a scroll. At later levels, sure, pick up a couple wands of it if you can afford it. Ian Ryder, hero point for that very, 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 very inside joke. That's pretty good. I wouldn't understand the joke, but I did just run Rise of the Rune Lords. It's weird because it's on the Staff of Divination. And as we all know, self-confessed cynic, Staff of Divination is like one of the best staffs because it has True Strike. No, this is a great spell. And I've said this before a million times. Like spells like this, in my opinion, are the lubrication. They are the oil that allow role-playing games to function, right? Like information transferring between the players and the GM is very difficult in role-playing games because of the nature of the medium. A lot of times I'm just describing things and you have to only react to the things that I have described. So clairvoyance, anything that allows your players to gather information so that they can make better, more informed choices is super A+ on me. I mean, after all, these games are set up for the players to win. We want the players to win. And so you want your players to be able to make good decisions. And this enables them and allows them to do it. So it's good stuff. Oh my God, staff tier list. Okay. Well, I don't know what happened there. Am I live? What is going on? Did Archives of Nethys go down? I think Archives of Nethys went down. I preloaded these, so maybe... Interesting. Okay. I don't know if Archives of Nethys just went down. That was weird. But like I said, I preloaded these, so okay. Looks like AON is down. Oh no. It's as if 1,000 Pathfinder 2 virtual online games suddenly cried out and then were silenced. Well, it's a good thing I had all of these spell descriptions already opened up before we started. Clownish Curse is next, although we won't be able to look things up like we normally do on this show when we have a debate. A lot of Extinction Curse adventure path things, and I want to quickly say something here. I'm in the process of starting a brand new adventure path, Quest for the Frozen Flame, and it's been a while since I have bought a physical copy of a adventure path. And I wanted to buy a physical copy for this adventure path because I'm running it and I like owning the physical thing and whatever. I didn't realize how much of the word count, of the page count of these adventure paths is not adventure. And specifically, at least the last two of the Quest for the Frozen Flames are 90 pages long, and 30 pages of that 90 pages is background information, extraneous information, random, questionably useful new monsters. I was really surprised how much of it was a supplement, and kind of, I felt a little cheated for that, I suppose. I don't know if I don't want a supplement. I want an adventure. That's why I'm buying an adventure from you. So I got to say, I was really disappointed with I guess I knew. I mean, that stuff's always been there. I knew that, but to see it in my physical book and to like actually like see how much of the page count was not adventure material was very kind of concerning, I should say, or disturbing to me. Anyways, Clownish Curse is an uncommon attack. It's interesting that it has the attack tag. Is that... Why does this have the attack tag? Why does this have the attack tag? Oh, yeah, I noticed that a lot. I thought it was really cool that the adventurers could provide material outside of the adventure, so buying the adventure gives me material to run at home games. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe like a GM separate magazine. I don't know. Attack tag is affected by map, but is this even making... Are you making an attack roll here? Yeah, I'm sure the bundling is a marketing tactic as well. Oh, Ian Ryder, don't get me wrong. That's like... I could do a whole separate thing about that. Saving throw is will, but it has the attack tag, so don't know why. You affect the target with a curse that causes it to emit ridiculous noises as it moves. Wow. I don't even care about the rest of this. It's just an F. All right, so it looks like Nethys is still slow. All right, well, here is an S tier spell. Spoiler. Wait, no, I want to see the rest. Damn it. All right. Clownish Curse. You hit them with a will save, and if they pass, they have to roll twice and use the worst if they make an acrobatic, stealth, or thievery check. And if they fail, that is true, but for an hour. The word here. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. GMF. There you go. You know, it's funny, Ryan, that you say this because, you know, during the Rise of the Rune Lord campaign, I would frequently, basically, almost meta out, you know, outside of the fact, I would basically, like after the adventure or in the course of it, I would basically just let the players know like what was going on with some of these key NPCs, because the adventure gives you all this incredible detail and gives the players absolutely no way to interact with it, absolutely no way to find out any of it, absolutely no way to interact with these NPCs. There's these super complicated NPCs with these super complicated motivations. And then the adventure itself will even say, when the PCs arrive, they fight to the death. They immediately attack and fight to the death. And it's like, whew, it's just so brutal. All right. Fourth level spell that gives 3 skills disadvantage that also gives you map attack. That's correct. Or it also gives you a multiple attack penalty. Yeah, that has to be a mistake. Again, also to be completely honest with you, a lot of the material that makes it inside of those adventure paths, the feats, the archetypes, the monsters, the spells, they're garbage. They're like not play tested at all. They're routinely woefully underpowered. They are balanced on this concept of flavor, which is just silly. All right. We get to Confusion, which, as far as I could tell, the only downside of it is that it is short range, 30 feet. But, you know, we're playing Pathfinder 2. That's a known problem. Reach is a thing. So, yeah, you befuddle them. They make a will save. And if they succeed, they are stunned 1. So, and by the way, you'll notice with Confusion, there is no incapacitation effect. And it's a will save. So, yes, it does have actually, I would say, Kevin, I would say mental is a bigger downside than emotion. There's only some stuff is immune to emotion. There is definitely more things that are immune to mental effects. So that is definitely a downside. I'd agree with you on that. But, slow obviously takes an action from them if they fail or if they succeed at the save. But slow is a fort save. So when you're casting that against, and most creatures in the game are not spellcasters. So most of the time, we're fighting things that probably have a reasonable fort save. This spell targets will. So for your big baddie, this is... Confusion is the best spell I never cast because high-level enemies almost all have broken tier will saves. And I bet you they are designed that way on purpose because as players, I think we are programmed to be okay, or even as GMs, we are programmed to be okay with the boss taking a bunch of damage and dying, but we are not okay with the boss essentially being neutered or neutralized. And a lot of the will saves type effects tend to do this. And to use a Magic the Gathering example, it has been proven conclusively and extensively that if I play a creature into the game, and then on your turn, you use, or at the end of my turn, you use a spell, a card from your hand to kill my creature, I will be upset. But if I cast a creature, and before my creature enters the battlefield, you use a counter spell to counter my creature, I will be more upset. Now, fundamentally, it's the same thing. The creature never did anything. You lost a card. I lost a card. We're in the same place. And I think it's the same thing with these effects in the game. We are much more comfortable with the bosses just getting killed than we are with them being significantly debuffed. And Deadly D8 agrees. Definitely on purpose thing regarding high will saves. And I think, after Pathfinder 1, I think they realized that, okay, ignore ETB, ignore Flame Tongue Convu. Yes. And a lot of creatures, by the way, do have ETB effects because counter spells were too good. So anyways, this spell is great. I mean, you don't need to heighten it. Stun 1 is better than slow 1 because if they are stunned, they cannot make reactions. They cannot take reactions, I should say. So you eliminate any attack of opportunity or any other sort of reaction thing that they would have. And of course, if they fail, they are confused for a whole minute. So, yeah, we can discuss confusion if Nethys is up for it. So, because the problem with confused status, we may have to go to the SRD. Let me see here. There we go. So the issue with confused is you're flat-footed. So, I mean, already, that's already great. You can't delay. You can't ready. You can't use reactions. So even if you're not stunned, you still can't use reactions. You have to use all of your actions to strike or cast offensive cantrips, although the GM can have you use other actions to facilitate attacks, such as drawing or moving. Your targets are random, so that can be an ally. And if you have no other viable targets, you target yourself, and you hit automatically. But every time you take damage from an attack or spell, which I read as even if you hit yourself, you get a 50% chance to end your confusion and end the effect. So, this is a fairly complex, kind of condition here. But ideally, what you are doing is casting this on, an enemy, and then hopefully they are just randomly choosing their allies and attacking them. But every time you hit that enemy, there is a 50% chance that the confusion ends. Or if the enemy has no other significant sources to attack with it, it will, they'll hit themselves. Opinion on using confusion and suggestion spells on PCs. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, Total Entropy. I mean, player agency is really important. And I personally feel that things like being suggested or confusion, even being told, I mean, this is maybe a controversial opinion, but as a player, I would rather be confused or suggested than paralyzed. Even if it meant that I was attacking my own party members or myself, rather than being told I just don't get to play. That to me is like the worst. So I think confusion though is very, very powerful. Just for the fact that if the creature saves, they get stunned 1. I mean, I think 2 actions to stun 1 a boss is a pretty good deal. It doesn't have incapacitation. The funniest fight was when Nick was confused. Yes. The spell stuns and it's not incapacitation. So that's crazy. I always think it's hilarious when my character has to attack their allies. Some people hate it, but it's always entertaining. It's a very D&D-esque thing, right? Like, it's not something that we really see in too many other forms of media. You know, it's definitely kind of a wonky thing. Could you zoom out or a little or scroll down further on the spell? Sure. All right. How about that? All right. So yeah, and you can heighten this and it'll go up to 10 characters or 10 monsters. And then like if you're fighting a bunch of monsters and you drop the AoE version of this on them, that's going to be it's going to be a chaotic mess, and your whole game is going to suddenly become this like crazy nonsense thing as you cast this on like 6 creatures that are lower level than you. Do we usually have music in the background? Something feels off. We do have some music going in the background. It might just be too quiet. How's that? It's usually just very soft. I might have turned it down too much. Yeah, it's just very soft. Yeah. I mean, I keep it quiet so that it's not too interfering with like, what we're doing here. I mean, if it's up to me, I'd have it louder so I could vibe, but I actually need to get again, part of my thing with my new setup, I want to have a better mixing board so that I can change the volume of what I hear versus what the audience hears. Also, when I hit my stuff like, like that.
Horizon Thundersphere!
When that happens, wait a second. When that happens, people don't my people on the don't hear it. My audio, not my audience, but my players, they don't get to hear that. So that's that's kind of crazy. Okay. Don't it's weird. All right. Anyways, sorry guys. I was distracted. All right, where were we? Confusion. Daydreamers Curse. I miss Confusion. Any chance to go review it again? Julian Plata. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the Confusion spell, it basically, if they fail, they get confused for 1 minute, and they get to make a new save at the end of every one of their turns. If they succeed, they are stunned 1. And if they crit fail, they are confused for 1 minute, and they don't get a save to end it early. But that being said, the confused condition has a lot of text to it itself. It makes you flat-footed. You don't get to use reactions. You can't delay. You can't ready. And you basically have to use all of your actions to either strike or cast offensive cantrips. So you can't use your regular spells, only cantrips, and they have to be offensive. And you can't use any of your cool powered abilities, power attack, or dual strike. You just have to use basic strike. And it's a random target. And if you can't reach anybody else, you hit yourself automatically. No need to attack, although it's not a critical. But anytime you take damage from an attack or spell, you can make a DC 11 flat check, 50% chance basically, to end the confusion condition. You basically are beaten out of it, I suppose, is the way you would look at it. So it's kind of a weird ability, but it's pretty powerful. And, but I ultimately, what Self-Confessed Cynic and what Swing Ripper here are saying, no incapacitation. It can be very problematic for a creature. And of course, even if they pass the save, they're stunned. So that's pretty good. So I found it to be a very powerful effect. Perfect spell to use against barbarians. Absolutely. Anything that's a big dumb brute with a low will save is going to be a good target. So we've got Daydreamer's Curse from Abomination Vaults. So spoilers. Why do all of these curses keep having the attack trait on them? This is very weird. Julian. Thank you. I appreciate it. Cheers to you, sir. Yes, done for only one turn. But you know what? Against a higher level boss, me spending 2 actions to make them lose 1 action you'll do that all day. That's a fantastic trade. Fantastic trade. Okay, so with the Daydreamer's Curse, it's touch. It's 2 actions. You make them distracted. They make a will save. For 10 minutes, they must roll twice and use the worst result whenever they make a medicine, nature, perception, or survival check. Okay. This is our new worst spell of all time. This is, Damien, this is worse. This is worse than Clown Curse. This is worse than Clown Curse. It's way worse than Clown Curse. At least Clown Curse is affecting things that might actually come up. DMF, you go. That is correct, Kevin. You got it. You got it right, Kevin. That spell is real bad, and we're not going to waste our time. Life is too short. Detect scrying, but this is uncommon. So weird. It's for 1 hour. You 30-foot emanation. You detect the presence of scrying effects, and if your detect scrying is higher than the scrying effect that's trying to scry you, you get a glimpse of the scrying creature and learn its approximate distance and direction. And if you heighten it, it lasts basically forever. So yes, GMD maybe. I do agree, Cazolo Entropy. There is no counteract check, but that's because it's not trying to stop the scrying, right? It's just trying to detect it. So that's okay. If the spell was called, eliminate scrying or block scrying, then it would be like you get to make a counteract check, and you have approximately a 5% chance of actually blocking someone scrying you that's higher level than you. Kevin says scroll D. Maybe. How would you know that you are being scryed on to want to detect scrying, though? Like, that's I get where it being heightened 6 is useful. Like, I get where that could actually come up. But that's a pretty powerful spell slot to give up just to be able to have constant detection up. Although you do end up with a lot of spells. I mean, towards the very end of the game, like, if my character was like 17th level, Silver Wolf says, who would actually use this? Yeah, I mean, total entropy. Yeah, if I was like, I was going to say, if I was like a 17th level wizard and I have a ton of spell slots, then maybe I would cast it. Deadly D8 though, it's like screenshotting a Snapchat though. Like, it doesn't stop you from doing it. It only like lets them know that, someone knows that you're going to do it. To not only read Daydream's Curse as if it was cool, but also to theory craft a use for GMs. I hate you so much. He makes my life so difficult. All right. All right, so let's take a look at Daydreamer's Curse here. We've got a spell that has a lot of traits, and that's really cool because traits are, basically a big part of Pathfinder 2. You can tell that it was written by someone who really wanted to make sure that there was never any ambiguity and that everything needed to be codified. And this is really great because that way you don't ever have to do any thinking on your own. So this is really great because the more traits something has, obviously the stronger it has. It's not like the more traits something has, the more likely it is that someone's going to have an effect or ability that makes them immune or otherwise resistant to it. So in this case, we've got uncommon, attack, curse, enchantment, mental, and misfortune. And, that's a lot of traits. 6 traits is one of the highest ones we've seen in the game. So that has to be very, very powerful. This is only available to Arcane and Occult. So, I mean, that's pretty, there's not a lot of wizards and sorcerers running around with the Arcane school. And so the fact that this isn't part of Divine, really hurts you because, all those Divine casters aren't going to be able to get their hands on this. So take extra care, take extra notion. 2 actions, somatic, verbal, nothing unusual here. Range touch, though, 1 creature. You love to see it. You love to see it because that way you know which creature you're targeting because you have to touch them. And of course, it's a saving throw of will. Duration varies. And will is a great saving throw to target because not a lot of people put good stats into their wisdom because it's tied to perception, which is used for like 95% of initiative rolls. So most of the time, will is definitely one of the weaker saves, especially amongst those high-level monsters because they're big, dumb brutes. And the game rewards you for attacking their minds because it knows that their will save is going to be low. It's not like it's going to be really, really extremely high or anything. So moving in, we oppose a curse. And of course, we're halfway through the game now, more likely. So, we're expecting some really, really big, powerful effects here. First level spell sleep will render a creature completely unconscious. So you can only imagine what a 4th level curse spell is going to do to a creature. And in this case, it gives them ADHD. It renders them easily distracted and unable to focus its thoughts on tasks that demand insight or discernment. So very powerful magic, basically minorly giving them an inconvenience of thought process. And, but hold on a sec. That doesn't actually happen. First, they get to make a will save. Listen, for starters, boom, boom, boom. They only are unaffected on a critical success. And this thing doesn't have incapacitation. If they succeed at the saving throw, for a whopping 10 minutes, they have to roll twice and use the worst result of medicine, nature, perception, or survival checks. That's 4 checks. Imagine if this got cast on your PC and you think you're all badass and you pass the will save and then, you win the fight because it's Pathfinder 2 and you're going to win the fight. And then afterwards, everyone's like, hey, we're just going to quickly heal up. Everybody has like expert or master in medicine. We've got ward medic. We've got continual recovery. And you're like, wait a second. Rather than hand wave that like we do every single time that we ever heal, I'm going to make you roll it because for that first check, you have disadvantage on your medicine check. Because now what are you going to do? You're going to heal for that extra plus 20 now? You're going to heal for that extra plus 30 now? I don't think so. I think you just got screwed over because now instead of just being able to heal up the whole party in 30 minutes, there's a 50% chance that it might take you 40 minutes. And you're like, man, guys, this changes everything. After the fight, I thought I was going to heal you all up or at the very least start following the trail again. But now for 10 minutes, I'm distracted and I have disadvantage. How am I going to do this? It's crazy. Now, to be clear, if you do fail, these effects are permanent, and you will need to get it removed by a remove curse spell. So, in the off chance that your game master is a particular type of dick, they could come in there and just chain cast this on everybody in the party who has any sort of medicine skill and make it so that you are all permanently locked in to rolling twice and taking the worst result. And then, instead of healing up in 20 or 30 minutes, you'll just go back to healing up in 2 to 3 hours like you did before you had all those skill feats. And it's going to be a real pain in the ass for you. And the GM is still going to hand wave the time, and they're still not going to make random encounters come after you because, well, that would break the game. All right. That is Daydreamer's Curse. Oh, critical failure. It's as failure, except the critical target treats the outcomes of all checks with the concentrate trait as 1 degree worse than success. Wow. All right. Oh my God. What have I done? Kevin, I would like to request the same treatment for Clownish Curse as well. All right. Clownish Curse. Just when we thought that a spell couldn't be more powerful, in comes Clownish Curse. Another 6-trait monster. Another big, bad, in-your-face debuff that is rewarded to you, the player, because you have finally achieved level 7. And what do we get for this? Well, as we've come to expect from some of the top-tier spells in the game, this is an uncommon attack, curse, enchantment, mental misfortune debuff that is touch and target's will save with a duration that varies depending on the result. You think it's all about frightened and sickened, making sure that you debuff those key critical stats. Don't forget about the mental game. You got to play the opponent, okay? Don't play the board. Play the opponent. This makes your opponent feel ridiculous. And if I were you and I cast this spell, I would make sure, I would guarantee, I would force that the target needs to role play this. That's right, because when they move, they emit ridiculous noises, and I want to hear them. I want to hear a soundboard. I want to hear some bleeps or boops. I want to hear some sad trombones. I want to hear something, because the game rule mechanics, that's not in italics. That's not flavor text. That is codified in the game. And so by God, I want to see it. Not about winning. Sometimes it's about embarrassing your foe or your game master. Look at this. The target's hands and feet become awkward and uncoordinated as if they were wearing big gloves and shoes. How embarrassing. How are they going to wield their gnomish flick mace when their hands are so big and awkward? Oh, totally fine. It doesn't do anything. Never mind. Now, if they succeed at this, for 1 round, they are going to have to contend with the fact that they sound and look like an idiot, and if they make any acrobatic, stealth, or thievery check, they have to roll twice. And if they get a failure, it's a critical failure. How are they going to sneak? How are they going to steal something for you for 6 seconds after you cast a spell on them and they look like a clown? What kind of life are you living? If they critically fail, by the way, that effect is permanent. That might as well read, target dies. Because who would live like that? Who would live like that? You're literally a clown, making funny noises with big hands and feet for the rest of your life. This is a no incapacitation instant death spell, and I think you should play it as such. All right, there we go. I demand that, yes, when someone casts a spell, you got to get your okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm here to attack you. Strike. Watch me make an acrobatics check. I tripped. Well, what's going on? Did you think something was wrong? Smell my flower. Don't worry, it's not a leshy. All right. We're done here. All right. Going back to what we were doing here. Goodness. Self-confessed cynic says, wow, when you put it like that, this is S tier. All right. Oh God, it's coming back. Here we go. Back to our lo-fi beats. Thank you everybody for indulging that there. Gaining those viewers right back during the clown curse. Best $5 I've spent today. That's great. Lance Quagmire says, I take it this is from the circus campaign. Yes, Lance Quagmire, it is from the circus campaign. All right. So we love the clown curse. Viewers love the clown curse. People come back and they're like, Derek, why I've noticed in your thing that the clown curse and Daydreamers curse were both listed as GMS. I also like how the spell description indicates that they should be clumsy, and they're just totally not clumsy. That is correct. All right. Well, moving back. So Clownish curse is where it's at. All right. We've talked about Confused. We've talked about Daydreamer's Curse. We've talked about Detect Scrying. And now we are on to Dimension Door. Map attack. Wow. Whoa, it's crazy in here. Wow. We should make it short just to keep YouTube happy. By the way, I don't know what's going on with my stream elements here. It's saying that we made hundreds of dollars, which I definitely don't think is true. I mean, everyone has been very nice and generous, but I don't see where that is. So, okay. I'm going to reset that. I'm going to manually change it to what we're at. I'll include the super chats because everyone's been really nice and we've been having a lot of fun. But I don't know what's going there. We got, let's see, 4, 3, 8, 18, 23, 27. All right, we're at 27. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. All right. Okay. Sorry, guys. I had to quickly update that just so that we all know where we're at. We all know where we're at. Okay. Dimension Door. Worth nothing compared to Clown Curse. Here it is. Derek's top 5 clown attacks. That's right. Here we go. Self-confessed cynic, always, beating us to the punch, but this is a lot of movement. 2 actions to move 120 feet is really great. In a Pathfinder 2 battle, that might as well be, for a lot of fights, to the surface of the moon. But you do have to be able to see it. And you can't bring anyone with you. So, I mean, it is a nice way to get a lot of distance between you and an opponent. And of course, you could teleport. So you could go up in elevation, you could cross terrain that would otherwise be uncrossable. And you even saw this in one of the second to last episodes of Rise of the Rune Lord. Gwildor was being closed in on by some rather nasty foes, some big ogre, heavily armored ogre kind of juggernauts, and he teleported away. And of course, the 5th level is 1 mile, and you don't need to be able to see it, yada, yada. So at that point, it is a short range escape teleport. So, now Tim says combo with Clairvoyance. Listen, in Pathfinder First Edition, I used to do that stuff all the time. I like that kind of play style, and I'm a big fan of it. And I would totally allow someone who is using Clairvoyance to be able to see something, be able to Dimension Door there as well. That is completely how I would play. You could look at it as 1 action to cast the spell and another one to move through the door. I do like that, Brutus. And then Snow killed him. Yes, Damien, Snow killed him. Some might say the Wheel of Pain killed him, but it is true that he did die from that. But yeah, I mean, I think Dimension Door is cool. It's our first access to a powerful teleportation effect. The Heighten is much stronger, and it's only 1 level higher. I hesitate to put this at A tier, though. I still think that 2 actions for basically 120 feet of movement and a high-level spell slot is it's definitely a cost. But the fact that you can move, quickly, but you have to see it, does take it down from A. So I'm going to agree with the chat, and I think it's a solid B. Brutus and Self-Confessed Cynic have the right of it there. I'm catching up from and wow, you got off the rails reading the description of Clown Curse. Listen, time jump is almost certainly in Occult. All right, our next spell is Dimensional Anchor, and Dimensional Anchor used to be an amazing spell in Pathfinder First Edition and in Third Edition. You had creatures, a lot of demons, devils, could teleport without error at will. So they could blink and teleport around. It was very easy for them to escape. It was very easy for them to move to the other side of the battlefield to reposition. Teleporting foes was a real problem. And Dimensional Anchor was a brutal spell because it was a beam that would target them. But of course, ranged spell attacks worked very differently in Pathfinder First Edition, right? They only had to hit your touch AC, which was most of the time pretty low. Here we have Dimensional Anchor, a spell that is precisely and specifically designed to do only one thing, which is prevent creatures from teleporting. And of course, it does not do that. That's right. It attempts to counteract any teleportation effect or any effect that would move the target to a different plane. So if you cast this spell on your opponent, because you think they're going to teleport away, and then they cast teleport to teleport away, or they cast 5th level Dimension Door to teleport away, guess what? If they cast teleport, it's 6th level. Even if you'd have to critically hit with your counteract check in order to be able to counteract it. So you would cast him. Oh no, he's going to teleport away. I cast Dimensional Anchor on him. Great. He teleports away. I roll counteract check. Did you roll 20? No. Well, then it doesn't do anything. So it's kind of weak sauce in that respect. In that it doesn't really work and then on the surface of it, by the way, also too, I mean, at least if they succeed, they're affected by for 1 minute. And if they fail, they're for 10 minutes. I mean, so these don't really matter. The only thing that really matters is the success, because if you had to make a counteract check and it only affected them for like 1 round on a success, this would be like a double F minus. As it is, I'm very unimpressed with this spell. Is definitely how I can say that. Now I don't know how the rest of you feel, but let's see. Yeah, counteract. A high-level Dimensional Anchor, 5th or 6th, is an amazing scroll. I'll buy that. I once Dimension Doored away from my party to get away from a baddie, and then the monster also Dimension Doored to where I was very far away from the party, and I was sad. Yes, that is sad. No, he would need a 7th slot, I believe. GMD? No, actually, Lavix, I think this is definitely more of a player spell. I think this is the type of spell that as a player you take to specifically prevent that wizard villain or that big demon creature that has the ability to just teleport around and stuff from getting away. This is the kind of spell that you cast in order to do that. Oh, sorry, I minimized everything. So I think that this is definitely a player spell. Definitely not a GM spell. Definitely a scroll, but counteract hurts. I think it's scroll. I agree that I think taking it at a higher level makes more sense. So that way you can get teleport. Most people aren't going to take extra planetary teleport, right? Most people are going to be pretty happy with, teleport at 6 or something and be okay with it. So I think we're good there. And I agree with it as a D because it doesn't even work. Yeah, I'm going to actually, you know what? I like it better than C. It's not an F. It does do something, but it's a counteract check, It's a counteract check. And again, this is a defensive spell. I'm using my turn, my spell, 2 actions, my resource, my spell slot. And it's just to do one thing, to counteract them. By the way, I could cast a spell on them, and then they go, oh, I wasn't even going to teleport. Or, okay, cool, I just won't do that anymore. You won't even, you know what I mean? Like, there's this concept of this, like, threat of activation, but, like, this spell might not even matter, and you cast it. So, and it has a will save, which potentially they could critically pass. The wizard or the demon might critically succeed, and then it literally does nothing. For something that is already circumstantial, not a big fan. All right, next up, discern lies. Divination, mental revelation, uncommon, because we wouldn't want people to know that you are lying. Does it make you detect lies? Nope. You gain a +4 status bonus to perception checks when someone lies. I get that these spells exist in Pathfinder because they just don't want magic to be an I win automatic thing. But God help me, these lame, you just get a bonus spells, I just don't like them. I understand how powerful in the game a +4 bonus is. I'm not an idiot. But like, if I cast discern lies and then someone lies to me a bunch and then it doesn't do anything, if my party member's lying to, no, it's, yeah, I get a +4 status bonus to perception checks when someone lies. Yeah. Wait, so if my party member is lying, does that make me better at finding secret doors? Yeah, +4 is a lot, but man, this spell is underexciting. Exactly. I get it. And man, is this specific. A +4 perception bonus for someone lying. Here's a fix. When you fail, not crit fail, on a perception check to detect lies, you get a success to that. Yes, Anthony. Yes. That would be an incredibly much better thing. It still means that having a perception check, having a higher perception is important. It doesn't necessarily automatically invalidate someone who has a high perception, but it also feels magical, and more importantly, it guarantees you some safety. It gives you a margin of safety in what you are doing. As written, this spell functions, but I don't like it. Scroll D is how I would place it. To be honest with you, being uncool is very Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is Pathfinder 2nd Edition is it's a well-designed game. You know, it doesn't have a lot of, it's like when people see like a busted-ass old house and they say it has a lot of character. Games can be that way too. Games can have these flaws. They can have these things that just don't feel perfectly smooth. They don't feel worked out. And, they could be a problem, but they can also be very, very, very charming. They can be part of why the game is fun to play, and why it's fun to interact with. And Pathfinder 2, to its credit, did a good job of smoothing out a lot of those kind of hills and valleys. The math, as Henry says, is very tight. The spells with the +4 is always best to cast on the character who is good at it anyways. Yeah, it's a very clinical game. It's a very clinical game. 100%. I agree with all of this. The game is not messy. The game has descriptive text that gives color bleaching -2 penalty versus gnomes because, bleach and color. And they thrive off of joy and being full of life. It's a very clinical game. And that's fine. For some people, they want a clinical game. Organized play societies want a clinical game. A lot of players want a clinical game, believe it or not. They want a game that they feel like maybe they're playing with strangers. Maybe they're playing with a GM who they don't really know that well. A lot of players feel uncomfortable in a game where they don't understand everything that's going on, where they're not sure how something is going to work because it's going to rely on the GM's ruling or the GM's interpretation of a situation. They want kind of an answer for everything. So, I mean, it is a game that is pushed towards it. I mean, I'm sorry. These are, these are some of the books. These are some of the books that are on my. These are some of the books that are on my bookshelf. Like we got probability and statistics. We've got the visual display of quantitative information. Right? Like, yeah, I'm a math nerd. I like math. I like stats. I like these things. I think these things are fun. I like figuring them out. Not everybody does, and I as much as I like Pathfinder 2, this idea that people have, okay, that Pathfinder 2, like, oh, if 5th edition players only got a chance to play Pathfinder 2, they would immediately switch over, I think is the biggest line of bullshit ever. Like, if you're a 5th edition player and you also have a probability and statistics book on your bookshelf, then yeah, you probably are going to really enjoy Pathfinder 2. But most players aren't. Most players don't care about those numbers. They don't care about that math. They don't care about having, 27 feats to choose over 20 levels. They're happy where they are. I like Pathfinder 2 more than 5th edition because of those reasons. But the idea that it is a universally better game, I don't buy. And, like people could point to the action economy or something like that as being a reason why you should play it over 5th edition. That's not enough for most people to sign up for the deluge of numbers that you're going to get when you play Pathfinder 2. And not only that, I would argue that if you're playing Pathfinder 2, but you're not really aware or ignoring the math, you're almost doing yourself a disservice. I think the game is almost worse in that point. I don't know if this made it to the stream or if it's something that we talked about afterwards, but I was discussing with Mark on Tuesday on the Roll for Combat stream that the game does a bad job of, because we were talking about probability and why it is that certain players don't understand. I think it was before the stream. And I had watched his stream with Ronald, the rules lawyer, and he was breaking down how a monster 2 levels higher than you from the XP charts is double the XP. So from a mechanical perspective, that monster is twice as strong. But how they got to twice as strong, because if you look at all the numbers, it's not like they double everything. And as Mark said, it's a combination of factors. You can't just double everything because then it would be too powerful. So you have to figure out a good way to increase the damage a little bit, but also increase the attack a little bit, but also increase the armor class a little bit and the hit points a little bit so that when all combined, the creature is twice as strong. But part of the problem with that is his point was that a +3 bonus is greater than a 50%, essentially a 50% damage bonus. And that's not apparent to anybody, like even if you're a math person, you'd have to sit down there and build the models and actually figure out what is a +1 worth, what is a +2 worth, what is a +3 worth in this system. And it is very large. And we always talk about that, but there's not a lot of people who can fully quantize that or fully understand that. And I think that if you come to this system and you see just something like a +1 bonus to hit, you're going to go, no big deal. Or a +2 bonus to hit, you're going to go, no big deal. And I don't think the game does enough to really explain to you how important that is. So I think the game is biased towards people who like very crunchy and very numerical and very codified. And, I don't want to say that like people who like Pathfinder 2 are like OCD or something like that, but there's certainly I've played a lot of RPGs and I've talked a lot about a lot of RPGs on this channel, and people go like either on the Discord or in the YouTube comments, they were basically like, ugh, the idea of playing in a system that is so open and interpretable and up to the whims and vagaries of expression and stuff would make me very uncomfortable. Like I want to sit down and I want to play my game and I want to know what's what before we even get to the session. Pathfinder 2 is very appealing to that type of player. But if that's not you, then Pathfinder 2 is not going to be a better game for you than 5th edition. Vagaries. Yes, vagaries. Thank you for the Self-Confessed Cynic super chat. Self-Confessed Cynic says, also the math falls apart if using glancing. The all or nothing damage bottle really caged them in a lot of ways, in my opinion. And what Self-Confessed Cynic is talking about is something that I talked about a long time ago, and he went ahead and built for his own home game, which is the idea of, I think I talked about it like on Missing Sucks, which was like one of our very earliest non-AP videos, where I talked about the idea of, could you just use the basic save model and apply it for damage as well? It's like the square cube law applied to monster power. Yes, I agree. If you want to see how good +2 in this game is, play a melee war piece next to a fighter. True. Play anything next to a fighter, right? I feel that, like PF1, it's a system that invites you to develop system mastery to truly enjoy it. Yeah, so glancing blows, more or less, is half damage on a miss. when you are making an attack roll. And that's true for a spell attack, like with a ray, pew pew, but it's also true for like a bow or a sword strike. And I personally think because if you're interested about that, go watch it. Failure is not fun. I think missing is not fun. Failure is not. I don't even know the name of my own video, but it's either missing is not fun or failure is not fun. Go watch that video and you'll sort of understand my thought process about that. It's not about like people go, oh, of course you don't want to miss. You just want everything to be easy and give it to you. It's like, no. Like the game still needs to be challenging. I'm just saying that when you're only limited to 3 or 4 or 5 rounds of combat, doing nothing on your turn is asking a high price. Anyways, I don't know how we got off on this topic. We've really been off the rails today. I'm jumping through hoops for these $5 super chats. I'll tell you that. Boy, can you imagine 135 people for that AP? Wow, I was blown away. That was credible, and that was just session 0. So hopefully, I don't. If we can even keep 70 for the actual game, I'm going to be very excited about that. So, and I want to thank Self-Confessed Cynic again for a very generous tip, very generous donation during that game, during our Tuesday live stream as well. So thank you, Vin. You're a real pal, real friend of the show, and we appreciate it. We love you. And look forward to, getting together with you and publishing some PF2 some days soon. That'd be cool. Oh, sorry. Bloop, bloop. There we go. Yeah, it got messed up. I'm sorry. Things were happening, folks. Things were happening. Oh, nice. Love to see it. All right, back to our spells. So we've got Dull Ambition. So this is a interesting spell, which, well, let's see what we got here. Dull Ambition. No incapacitation, 120 foot range, 2 action will. So, all right, that plays. Oh my God, look at what this does. What does this spell even do? Wow, this spell is horrible. I mean, this is a GM, like a creature is going to give its life in the middle of a fight with a party member so that they have to roll twice and take the lower of 2 rolls for initiative rolls. Ian Ryder, yeah, someone was saying that our spell descriptions were too zoomed in, which normally I do have it zoomed in so that you can't see the sidebar. But we were talking about these spell descriptions, and zooming out lets us see more of the spell description at once. So, it is we're taking what we can take. Unfortunately, we could shit talk Critical Role if we want to. I'm not a Critical Role fan, but even I think this recent campaign is a classic trope that we see that has been the ruin of many great shows. Now, I'm not a Big Bang Theory fan, but when the show first came out, I would watch it occasionally, or I would, see it on TV or whatever. And I'd watch it. I wouldn't watch a new episode, but it was on TV, so I'd watch it. And the first season or 2, it was legitimately kind of funny. There were a lot of inside jokes. They were pretty good at doing and representing this kind of, hyper realized nerd culture. But by the time they got to the 3rd season, kind of like Critical Role, they became almost parodies of themselves. They took it too far. What had made them fun and interesting, they doubled down on that, and then they tripled down on that. And for me, nothing more represents that in Critical Role than with their intro to season 3, or to campaign 3, which to me is just a self-indulgent nightmare for Critical Role. And so, and I think Shim said it great here. Season 1 and 2 was like, this was a show for nerdy people, and it didn't try to pander to a wider audience. It's part of the reason I love Community, is because they never, they didn't try to explain their jokes. And season 3 became all about mocking these characters for their, things. Yes, Flanderization. That's even a better way to describe it. Exactly. But yeah, so, all in all, I feel like Campaign 3 has just suffered from their own success. And I get it. It's a multi-million dollar business now. I can only imagine. I mean, when we were playing Rise of the Rune Lords, albeit we had, our crazy, wheels and stuff, but, we were getting a couple $100 every time we played freaking Pathfinder. It was crazy. I was like almost kind of like uncomfortable. I was like, oh, gee, I can only imagine if I was playing D&D and I knew that like 10,000 plus people were watching me and I was making, $50,000, $100,000 every time I played. Like that would mess with your head. So maybe that's what happened to them. So this spell is very bad, and it would only be used for GM, and it's probably an F. So most of the curses suck, unfortunately. All right, we got Enervation next. By the way, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got about 10 left, so we're gonna power through these, so we at least get halfway through. So we're nowhere near our tip goal, so we're not going much past 9 o'clock. Enervation, and that's fine. You guys are great, but we had a busy week. And Enervation used to be a really cool spell, and it would give some negative energy levels in Pathfinder 1. Let's find out what it does here. It's a line, 30 feet, not exactly an impressive line, but it's a line that makes a fort save, and everybody in it has to make a fortitude save. If they succeed, they take 2d8 persistent negative damage. Persistent negative damage is a pretty good damage type. Not a lot of things have resistance to it. And more importantly, that DC 15 is pretty tough. This could stick around for a couple of rounds pretty easy. And if the creature fails, it's 4d8 persistent negative damage, and they get drained 1, which of course is also going to affect their hit point totals. And if they critically fail, the damage doesn't go up, but they become drained 2 and doomed 1. Pretty weak critical failure effect, I must admit. The problem with this is, if the creature fails, they're going to take roughly 14 damage a round from this spell. So what that means is that by the time a couple of rounds have passed, the creature is going to have taken, maybe something like 42 damage from this spell, which is not bad. I mean, obviously 42 damage all at once is better than 42 damage over the course of 3 rounds. You'd rather the creature be dead sooner than later. And the 30-foot line is pretty weak sauce, and it only affects living creatures. So there is, a lot of stuff in this spell to not like. But it plays. Okay, thank you, Creative Cloud. So I'll put it in C. Again, it's not going to be your most effective spell of all time, but it plays. Favorable review. The thing that apparently the Knights of Last Call never like to give out. But it does have incapacitation, by the way, because it would be too powerful if you could just make a creature give you a favorable review. You enchant a creature to ensure they only have good things to say about your show. Okay. I mean, obviously I'm going to make this F, but, scroll F probably. Obviously this is very campaign specific, we get that. So we understand that this is, this is not for us, right? This is for this is specific. This is a very campaign specific spell. So we don't need to spend much more time on this, but it's cool. Forgotten Lines, probably along the same spell here. You reconstruct allies to material. Why is these spells? Why are these spells? Why are these spells? Why are these not, why are these not rituals or something else? It's kind of messed up that this is a spell. But this is, again, very specific to Age of Ashes and very much a spoiler alert. And you get to redact text. I think sometimes D&D shows and Pathfinder shows its age, and this is an example of where it shows its age. Like, the Vancian casting system is not equipped or set up or compelling to handle these kind of effects, and it shows. It really does show. So, especially in a game that has rituals, I don't know why these are still spells. And I think it's just because a lot of players don't play with rituals. They don't like rituals. They like spells. They like having to take it and put it on their list or something. I don't know. It's weird to me, and I think a lot of these effects should and could be rituals. Okay, keeping moving on. Gaseous form. We got a polymorph transmutation. It lasts 5 minutes. Our favorite wonky duration. Long enough to pre-buff, but not long enough to really do anything super useful. The target transforms into a vaporous state. In this state, the target is amorphous. It loses any item bonus to its AC. So that's your potency rune and whatever armor you got bonus. And it uses its proficiency modifier for unarmored defense. So, okay. You just use your unarmored defense. It gains resistant 8 to physical damage and is immune to precision damage. All that sounds cool. It cannot cast spells, activate items, or use actions that have the attack or manipulate trait. So you basically cannot do anything offensive. You gain a fly speed of 10 feet and can slip through tiny cracks. So this is basically, essentially, exactly only a infiltration type spell. So I think it's cool though. So I'll say it's a scroll C. It does what it does pretty well. It feels magical to turn into this cloud-like vaporous form and gain this limited fly speed, and you could slip through the cracks of doors and windows and walls, and all this nonsense here is almost irrelevant. But we may have reviewed it for Primal. I may have just forgotten that. Let me see. Oh, I made it scroll D in Primal. All right, you were correct. All right. Good spot, Eon Rider. Good spot. Oh my God, this spell's going to be horrible. How's everybody feeling? You guys want to keep going? It's 9 o'clock. I mean, I'm willing to go a little bit longer if you guys want to keep going. Thoughts? Or are you guys tired? See, it's been a long week for me. I had to go into the office this week. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? I was there like all day. It was crazy. Working from home has got me spoiled. I had to commute. I had to wear pants. All right, so everybody's sounding like they want to stick around. I'm kind of surprised you've given Enervate a C. Have you done any rants on the power level of the drain condition? I have not, Ryan Adams. I'm curious to know what you feel about the drain conditions. We got about 5 or 6 or 7 spells left to get through the halfway point, which is what I wanted to get to I so that we can officially rate Invisibility. I had to go into the office too. Kevin, my condolences to you as well. All right. Drain seems pretty strong. Drain's okay. Doomed is actually my favorite condition because Doomed, it ratchets up tension without unbalancing the very careful seesaw that is Pathfinder 2 balance and creating death spirals. And Doomed is a great way to ratchet up your tension along with Wounded without, again, getting into it. Like I personally would love to see, like, instead of traps doing damage, I would love to see traps, like a magical trap. It affects not damage, but conditions, or like physical traps give you like wounded. So you're walking down, you fall into a pit trap or something like that, and you critically fail or whatever, you're like wounded 3 or something like that. So unless you sit there and I know it's easy to get rid of wounded because of the treat medicine. I wish they didn't do that as much, but so those are my favorite conditions because they don't mechanically do anything, but yet they really also do everything. Like it's perfect because it's clearly a negative condition, but it doesn't make it more likely that you are going to fail future conditions. And all the other conditions are death spiral promoting. So, Kevin, if you saw the episode where they went inside the misgivings of Rise of the Rune Lords, we were using resolve and hit points. So we had stamina and we had hit points, and I had the traps bypass their stamina hit points and go directly to their hit points, like the meat and potatoes. And that made it a lot cooler and a lot more scary. And I really liked that. So anyways, Ghostly Tragedy. From the APG, what does this spell do? It is a 60-foot emanation that lasts for 10 minutes. You compel local spirits to reenact a violent event of the recent past that you're aware of, and you can name as you cast the spell. You take the role of the primary victim, and the reenactment plays out the final 9 minutes leading up to the death or the injury of the victim and the minute after their death or injury. The spirits don't change form, so this doesn't help determine perpetrators by their look. Spiritual forms of missing creatures necessary for the event are needed, but they appear as shadowy outlines. Once the scene ends, you take 2d6 negative damage for each ghostly apparition that participated in this scene, typically equal to the number of creatures involved other than the victim, and then you can attempt investigate checks to investigate and get new clues. Cool spell. Shouldn't be a spell, right? This is a ritual. This is a ritual. Where's my dungeon world? I think it's in my other room. Let me look up something here. All right. I'm going to pull this up. Okay. And this is the wizard playbook from Dungeon World. And these are now all wizards get these moves and abilities. Okay. You can prepare spells. You're kind of like a D&D wizard, but I want everybody here to read this innate power that every wizard in Dungeon World has. This is how you should be playing RPG games. Okay. It's kind of, you'll notice, by the way, this is why it's not in Pathfinder 2, because it's kind of vague. It's kind of open to interpretation. When you draw on a place of power to create a magical effect, tell the GM what you're trying to achieve. Ritual effects are always possible, but the GM will give you 1 to 4 of the following conditions. It's going to take days or weeks or months. First, you must blank, or you'll need help from blank, or it'll require a lot of money, or the best you can do is a lesser, unreliable version, or it's a limited version. You and your allies will risk danger from blank, and you'll have to disenchant blank to do so. This template allows for wizards to, or basically anybody, but wizards specifically in this game, to do every cool thing that you ever would want them to do. But you immediately make it into a cool, awesome, adventure promoting activity. So something like that Ghostly Tragedy, which we just read, you could imagine someone saying, hey, I want to summon the ghosts of the spirit world to recreate the murder and this. And you go, okay, great. First, you and your allies will risk danger from summoning the ghosts. Maybe you'll be able to play the ghostly tragedy out, but when it's over, you're going to have to fight poltergeists or ghosts because you'll have summoned them in order to reenact this thing. Or maybe your characters will be drained because of you being possessed or doomed from being possessed by this. And also, you'll have to disenchant an item. You'll have to have a necromancy item that you can destroy or empower to fuel this ritual. Or, it's going to take you a whole day to set up. Or you're going to need help from a cleric or a necromancer or something. And the party goes, okay, and there's no check. Notice this. Ritual effects always work. They always work. But anyways, that's how I feel about spells like Ghostly Tragedy. It's a very cool spell. It has a lot of fun flavor, but it just shouldn't be a spell. And to answer your question, Damien, why is that spell banned from Pathfinder Society? Because this is your auto solve the murder mystery spell. That's why. It's the blood biography of Pathfinder 2. So, very cool flavor, very cool, very cool. It's just very cool. It's very story focused and, very fun. But it's an F. Sorry. Ryan, we've gone this far. We're here for it. Gurjin's March. This is from Strength of Thousands. I don't know this one as well. Divine and Occult. Verbal, 30-foot burst, sustained. You sing a prayer for war, inspiring allies. They get a +1 status bonus to attack rolls, fort saves, and will saves against mental effects. So this is it is called ASR. It is called all spells ranked. It's kind of like an AoE heroism. It's not quite. We'll probably do those at the end, K-Swistack. You want to come for me? Oh, let's go. We could do this. Anyways, this is kind of a cool spell. I like the idea that it's an AoE. It sucks that you have to sustain it, though. Geez, that would have cost. Cool for a witch, right? I don't know. It's probably not that great. Maybe C or D, honestly. I like that it's AoE, but heroism only gives a +1 bonus, Anthony. And that's level 3. This is level 4, and it's AoE. Now, it's not to all saves. It's not to reflex saves at all. And it's only to will saves against mental. So, again, heroism is a good spell. But I actually think this spell is better than you guys are giving it credit for. So I'm going to leave it at C. Glibness. Now, in Pathfinder 1, this gave you something like a +30 bonus to lie. I think is that right? Anybody? Okay, +20. Yeah. It gives you a +20 to bluff checks in Pathfinder 1, which is hilarious. But no, it's level 3. It's level 3 in Pathfinder 1. So what do we get instead in Pathfinder 2? We get 10 minutes And don't bring Pathfinder 1 numbers in here. It'll just make them seem much worse. Well, look, I played a lot of Pathfinder 1. It's hard for me not to make these comparisons. I mean, you get up, of course, you get a +4 status bonus to deception checks to lie. If you are, and you had to add your level. So this is the knock of lying. This is the knock of lying, and it's only occult. And if the implausibility of your lie gets a circumstance penalty or decrease, reduce that penalty or increase by half. But remember though, discern lies would have to make a counteract check just to even work against this spell. So remember, glibness will always work. Discern lies will only work some of the time. So you understand? That's why discern lies is weak. So if this spell is better than discern lies, I'll say it's a scroll C. Soli, you missed A through G of occult. So all right, K-Swiss stack. Be a little bit more polite, please. All right. Glibness is a scroll. I mean, you're never going to actually take this spell, but you know, you might have one in your scroll if you really, really need to lie, and +4 status bonus is a lot. So it's pretty good. You know, as good as scroll C could be. It does what it does on the tin. All right. Globe of Invulnerability, another spell, which unfortunately is very, very, very negatively affected by the counteract rules. You create a globe for 10 minutes that surrounds you, and it's immobile. So very similar to Globe of Invulnerability in the past, but of course, Globe of Invulnerability in the past did not allow level 1, 2, or 3 spells to even enter the globe. Any effect, whether it's an AoE fireball or it's a debuff, anything that would target those people within the globe, guess what? Invulnerable. 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 What does invulnerable mean to you? It means you are not vulnerable. You are immune. You are completely safe. Instead, any spell gets if the spell is lower level than the spell level, in other words, level 1, 2, or 3, you get to counteract it. Now the good news is, being that the spells are lower level, the counterattack effect works even on a failure. So, even though, well, wait. Even though this spell uses counteract rules, Globe of Invulnerability only ever worked against spells that were lower level than the Globe of Invulnerability. So, Globe of Invulnerability in Pathfinder 1 was a 4th level spell, and any 1, 2, or 3rd level spell would not work. In this case, if a 1, 2, or 3 level spell gets cast and the area of effect or the target would be within the Globe of Invulnerability, then you get to counteract it. But because it is a lower level spell than your Globe of Invulnerability, it means that even if you fail that counteract check, you will still dispel the effect. So only on a critical failure would the spell still get through. So I kind of actually think that this spell does work. In that regard. Now, how useful that is, who knows? I didn't cast a lot of Globe of Invulnerability, even in Pathfinder 1, because honestly, that seems like more of a personal debuff to me than a, you know. But I mean, if you had some sort of like anti-magic party and like you could somehow close in and yeah, Damien, you heighten it to level 10, all spells 9th level or lower will get automatically countered. It's pretty cool. Globe dispels as if it was a 3rd level dispel. Oh. Okay. AK AK coming in there. Yes. Okay. So it automatically works on first and second level spells, and then it has a reasonable chance of third and fourth level spells. And then basically no chance for fifth level spells. So that does change it up a little bit. Okay, I was reading it wrong. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Okay. So you get to counteract it. But it's a check. So yeah, so it's fourth level, so it dispels as if it's a third level dispel, and that means it on a level 1 or 2 spell, it's going to basically counteract even on a failed check, and on a 3 and a 4, it'll counteract on a successful check, and on a 5 or 6, it'll counteract on a critical check. I don't know. I have no idea how to feel about this one. Let me get I need some thoughts in chat. I have no idea. Is this a scroll? No, because you want to probably be able to heighten it. Kevin, I kind of like B, actually. Auto countering is cool. I mean, remember, though, it counters any spell from outside the globe. So you could still cast spells inside the globe just fine. No. You create an immobile globe around yourself that attempts to counteract any spell from outside the globe whose area or targets enter the globe. You can sit inside your globe of invulnerability and cast fireballs out of it. You could sit inside your globe of invulnerability and cast heals and buffs within it. In fact, if a monster enters the globe of invulnerability, it can now target you with spells without any problem. So, I mean, yeah, I think this actually works in this condition. Yeah. Plus, I think this could be a really, it adds a lot of dimension ability. Yeah, B sounds good, not scroll. I like it. I like B, not on a scroll. I like it. All right. Infectious melody. Oh, my love. All right. It's an occult only, so let's take that into consideration. This is only good for the bard. Or the occult sorcerer, I guess. Auditory, enchantment, mental. And it's a 15-foot emanation. It only targets the enemies in the area. You call forth the chords of a tune so catchy that foes hearing it cannot help but sing along, making it harder for them to communicate. They have to make a will save. If they crit, they're not affected. If they succeed, then for 1 round, they can only communicate by singing along to the melody. I always do forget the witch because the witch is not good. This is a song that doesn't end. It just goes on and... All right. It can only speak on its turn, and it must take the perform action when it does so. The results of the performance check determine... Oh, my God. If somebody casts a spell at my table, I would ask them politely the first time to leave. And then if they didn't leave, I would demand that they leave. I just assume that nobody plays witches and oracles. Boy, this spell is horribly bad. All right. Just reading this is painful. I've yet to see an oracle that impressed me, total entropy. I've yet to see one that impressed me. The curses are not balanced against the benefits at all. Yeah, I agree with that statement. I'm probably being unfairly bad. I'm probably unfairly poo-pooing the witch just because I didn't like them in Pathfinder 1. I also don't understand why the witch is in the game. Why is the witch not just like an archetype for the wizard or like an alternative set of class features for the wizard? I just don't understand mechanically how they're any different. They're a prepared caster. I just don't get it. Anyways. Internal insurrection. It sounds cool, but is it actually good? The spoilers for malevolence. You give somebody this disease. If they've passed, they are clumsy 1, and if they fail, they get the disease. And if they critically fail, they get stage 2. This is rare, by the way, so we're probably not gonna, get to that too much. But it is a level 7 disease. You're clumsy for a day, then you become clumsy 2 for a day. So even if they fail, they become clumsy 1. So this is a -1 touch to AC and reflex saving throws. Cool. GM D. Okay. So before we get to invisibility curtain, we do need to jump back to a prior list. And, this is actually, I have this called this. And we need to put in here our S tier ranking, because we have a special spell that we need to look up. And that is, I butchered the spelling of that. A lot of I's in invisibility. So we do this occasionally, but it's worth noting when there are certain spells which just radically alter the game and when heightened, and they really, really just change everything up. And this is definitely one of those spells. And I love it when you have to go to Google because it's faster. So this is, of course, invisibility level 2, heightened to invisibility level 4, where it lasts for a whole minute, but it does not end if the target uses a hostile action. I cannot stress to you enough how, and this is powerful for every class in the game. Every class in the game, this is broken and powerful. For starters, everything's flat-footed to you. Secondly, everything has a 50% miss chance. In fact, you know what? It's here. Ready? Boom, 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 boom. There we go. This spell is so ridiculously powerful, and we've been playing it a lot in our recent game. And so, I mean, again, it is a incredible offensive buff because everything is flat-footed to you. So, number 1, awesome. Everything's flat-footed to you. Number 2, it's an incredible defensive buff. One of the best defensive spell buffs of all time, because everything has a DC 11 check. And unlike in Pathfinder 1, where if a creature could see invisibility, it could just see you, at least in this game, if they can detect invisibility or see invisibility, guess what? You're still concealed. So, I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but at least it's still something. So even if a creature does somehow have fairy fire or detect invisibility or whatever, you're still just concealed. So at least you have that. 3, being invisible means you are always hidden. You can sneak to become undetected, which basically means the enemy has no idea what you are, where you are. Technically, they wouldn't even know. They'd have to guess what square you're in, which is awesome, which is incredible. And most importantly, if you are a class that benefits from, say, the flat-footed condition being applied to your enemy, say, rogue, this spell is off the charts. So Yeah, and it lasts the whole fight. It lasts a minute. This spell is incredible. Incredible. It's broken. It's way too powerful. And it's nuts. So, very, very powerful spell. No one can deny that. All right. Invisibility Curtain, though. Best spell in the game until True Sight, lol. I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, I know that my cleric has a lot of scrolls of, my cleric free archetype druid has a lot of fairy fires, and then once I got a 4th or a 5th level spell slot to burn, I just throw on there the heightened detect invisibility, just to keep it up. Because I think detect invisibility 5 makes it so that it's always on. I actually don't know. Whoever said it counteracts is looking like they are actually correct. The GM rolls a secret counteract check to detect any illusion or transmutation in the area, but only for the purpose of determining whether you see through it. So, correct. That is correct, self-confessed cynic. Yeah. Because unless you've heightened your invisibility to level 6, true see, which you could, by the way, but yeah, it's a counteract check. The invisibility is probably going to be level 4, and so the true seeing, even on a failed check, is going to see through it. So that is okay. But I prefer to just use, because it's only 10 minutes. But in see invisibility. Sorry, we were saying detect invisibility. If you take see invisibility and you heighten it to 5, it lasts for 8 hours. And if you have a GM who's regularly using invisible creatures and isn't afraid to use invisible creatures, I think this heightened to 5 it's an expensive slot, but it's good for at least someone in the party to have it. Someone like me, like a cleric whose spell slots are kind of useless and worthless anyways. Yes, see invisibility, they're still concealed to me, but at least I know where they are. I can point them out, and I can then cast my fairy fire spell to make sure that they get marked for other people in the party. It's just good to have somebody who knows at least if there's invisible creatures around. All right, so let's see what this invisibility curtain does. It's a 120-foot range, 3-action sustained wall that is transparent. Whew, this is a weird one, huh? It's a transparent wall that makes any creatures on one side of the wall invisible to those on the other side. You choose which side of the wall provides invisibility to the creatures on that side when you cast the spell. It can either be a 1-inch thick wall in a straight line, or 10 feet high, or a 1-inch thick, 10-foot radius ring. The wall is completely intangible. So you basically create a line on the map, and anything on one side of the map line is invisible to anything on the other side. Any creature that crosses the wall becomes visible or invisible as appropriate. If a creature is rendered, oh, that sucks. Right here is where the spell fails completely. Look at this. If a creature rendered invisible by the wall takes a hostile action, the spell ends for everyone. So this is basically invisibility sphere, but turned into a wall, and still horrible. Because it's like the whole idea of like you setting up this invisible mirror and then casting and attacking through it. But if any creature, now, if you heighten it to 7, then it's greater invisibility, and that's kind of cool. Although the duration being sustained still doesn't make it as compelling as a heightened invisibility, right? You'd bump the spell down just for that. Why the last sentence, Paizo, please? Yeah, it's very disappointing. It's not an F, but it is D for disappointing. Yes, very much. You know that. Anthony, I just think at this point you'd be better off using your lower level spells, and hell, like you could use hallucinatory terrain, which we graded an A, and get just as much fun and value out of that. So, in terms of hijinks, and it lasts a lot longer, and it doesn't fail automatically once you do anything. It's overbalanced. It suffered from that. All right, everybody. Are we excited for Magic Mailbox? It's uncommon conjuration teleport. It takes 1 hour to cast, and then I could target 2 containers, each no longer than 5 feet, and then it lasts until my next daily preparations. And it's important to note as we go through this spell that if something lasts until your next daily preparations, the next day you can just leave that slot spent and the spell will continue. So you don't actually have to cast it every day. You can just keep it on permacast, basically, if you're willing to sacrifice the slot. You create an extra dimensional link between 2 containers, both of which must be capable. Anthony, fantastic question. I reiterate again. Why are we not just doing this? Hey, Derek. Okay, check it out, man. Here's what I want to do. I want to take his pouch and my pouch, and I want to make a magical bridge between the two of them. Okay, cool. Well, here's what you need to do this. And that's how you would have to do. But instead, we get this spell that has to exist. It has to have all this words. All right, if both containers are closed for 10 minutes consecutively, the contents of each one transporting no more than 3 bulk, so yes, it does pass the Nomus Flick Mace test, of non-living, non-magical material, so it can't be a magical Flick Mace, transports to the other location. If either container is open before the full 10 minutes have lapsed, yada yada. After the contents swap, they can't swap again until after both containers have been opened at least once. Both containers must be located on the same plane for the process to function. If this ceases to be the case or something disrupts it, the process stops. So, non-magical, why? Yeah, it's like we're high-level characters. Why is this non-magical? Damien, I agree with you. It's like a D. It's a cool spell. I like Kevin. I like Kevin's thing. I like GMD better. So I like Kevin's take on that. Very weird, wonky, disappointing, but why does it have to end? I like that. Why does it have to end? Why can't it just not work? No, it has to end. Spell over. You try to do something. Be punished, you munchkin power gamer. Get the hell out of here. You have no business being here. Mirror's misfortune. Flameblood, I would not make it a scroll because then it's only going to last 1 day. Or until you prepare again, and you won't be able to just keep it going. I think you have to be able to sacrifice the slot. So, all right, here we go. Long spell. Guess what this spell should be? You guessed it. A ritual from Dungeon World. Okay. 1 minute. You split yourself into a real self and a mirrored self of yourself that curses would-be attackers with misfortunes on their next attack. Oh, never mind. I thought this was something different. I thought it created a mirror version of yourself. When you cast this spell, you seem to split in 2. As you do, you can step to any adjacent square. If you end in either your initial square or another square adjacent to your initial square, an exact illusionary duplicate of you appears. All right, so this sounds cool so far. You decide a simple course of action for the duplicate to follow, such as to walk to a certain point or wave its hand, but anything more complex is beyond its abilities. A creature can distinguish between you and the duplicate only if it spends an action to seek and succeeds at a perception check against your spell's DC. If a creature takes a hostile action against the duplicate, the illusion shatters into mirror-like shards, inflicting bad luck on the attacker's next few attacks as misfortune's toll for shattering the mirror. The attacker must make a will save with the following effects. If it fails for the next hour, whenever it must roll its next 2 attack rolls twice and take the lower... sorry. Within the next hour only, the creature must roll its next 2 attack rolls twice and take the lower result. And if it critically fails, it must, within the next hour, reroll or take disadvantage on 4 attack rolls. This spell is really cool, right? Like flavor-wise, like you create this sort of mirrored entity of you. They can't tell the difference. The other one is sort of pre-programmed. It might go off and it might go to the right. You actually go to the left. If they want to try to tell the difference, they have to make seek checks, which are burning actions and making perception checks. And then if they do attack the one and they're wrong, if they take any sort of hostile action, it shatters, and then they have to make a will save or be cursed with dislike. Yeah, I'm going to give it C because I think it's cool. I don't know that it's like great. I think AK, you know, you know, they have to either seek to try to determine which one is the real one, or they risk shattering in the false one, and then they get some. They might end up with some disluck or bad luck. I think it's okay. Yeah, Kevin, I think we all agree. C's a good beat on that one. Modify Memory, another occult only spell. Uncommon Divination Mental, 30 feet. The duration is unlimited. I always like to pay attention to that. Again, why isn't this a ritual? You alter the target's memories, either erasing a memory, enhancing a memory's clarity, altering a memory, or adding a false memory. So this is really Inception, the spell. If they crit, they're unaffected, and they know you tried to mess with them. If they succeed, they're unaffected, but they didn't think it was anything. If they fail, during the first 5 minutes of this spell's unlimited duration, you can sustain the spell to modify a memory once each round. When you do, you imagine up to 6 seconds of memory to modify, up to a maximum of 5 minutes of memory. Any memories you've altered remain changed as long as the spell is active. If the target moves out of range before the 5 minutes is up, you can't alter any further memories. And if you heighten it, you can cast the spell on a willing target to suppress all memories of a particular topic, detailed in 50 words or fewer. The effect is permanent, and it patches these omissions with an indistinct haze. So this is basically the neuralizer from Men in Black. Yeah, AK, I do agree with you on this one. You know, this gets, K-Swiss Stack, this gets into that whole thing where people talk about how, like, charm and suggestion are actually way more evil than, like, a simple kill spell. Henry, yes, I am familiar with that situation. It's funny how in like these games, you can like rob someone of their will. You can charm them, dominate them, suggest them, modify their memory. And it's like, it's totally fine. But like, if you like summon a demon, that's evil. Something like this, not evil at all, right? Yeah, very Demir-like, very Demir-like. It's a cool spell, right? It's occult only. I think this spell might actually kind of might be an A. I get that what it does isn't like going to be immediately powerful, but this spell works. It does things that you can't otherwise do in the game. It lasts forever. It's occult only. It's a pretty cool effect, and I mean, you could have some really cool, fun things on this. So I like A. Actually, I like A for Modify Memory. It's a unique effect, and again, it's occult only. It feels very occultic, very bardic, and it's a powerful effect. I mean, and it's fun because Damien nailed it. This is a spell that's as good as your imagination. So, kind of like it's the mental version of hallucinatory terrain, which we also put at A. So I like it. All right, 2 more to do. Where these are the ends, and then we'll be done. Necrotic Radiation from Extinction Curse. 2 actions. We got a 2-action touch, and it affects an object or an area for 24 hours. You affect it with slow-acting necrotic radiation. If you cast a spell on an object, any creature ending its turn holding or carrying it takes 2d6 damage. And if you cast it on an area, Any creature ending its turn takes 2d6 negative damage. If you attempt to use this spell on an attended object, they get to make a reflex save. And on a success, it only lasts 1 minute. On a failure, it lasts 10 minutes. And only on a critical failure does it last the full 24 hours. So this sounds like a GMC. Oh, gosh. Never let it be said that there aren't... never be said that there aren't still power gamers possible. Anybody who allows a damn pure to be in your campaign anyways, just because randomly this person's just randomly a half vampire. So, oh my God, so many. All right. Last spell is Nightmare. Which, if you'll know, was very instrumental to the final few sessions of our Rise of the Rune Lords campaign there. So, spoiler alert. Casting time is 10 minutes. Range is planetary. Duration's 1 day, and it is a creature that you know by name. You send disturbing nightmares. The next time the target falls asleep, you must attempt a will save. If they are critical, they are immune for a week. If they succeed, then they have bad dreams, but otherwise have no effects. If they fail, they are fatigued upon awakening, which means, aside from also having a small penalty to their armor class, they cannot take exploration actions. So being fatigued is pretty nasty. Anthony, I was not. Only because the witches had been scrying on them for so long, because they had literally raised the dead of ogres that had fought them. They knew them so intimately after the party made no attempts to be undercover and no attempts to hide their presence and no attempts to use subtlety or subterfuge. And in my opinion, the hags basically knew them better than they knew themselves. So I did not give them the +4 bonus. Under a strict reading of the rules, you would be correct. But yeah, this is clearly a GM spell. Players aren't going to cast this. But it's a fun GM spell. For sure. So, fatigue is a good middle ground, right? It's definitely a penalty. No, Kevin, never. Not once. And even if they had, the people scrying on them were like higher level than them, so they probably would have failed and not known that they were being scryed upon anyways. So, all right. Well, we have a lot of low. Yeah, we got a lot of bottom. K-Swiss Stack is correct. We have a lot of bottom heavy GM Ds and Fs here. A lot of scroll Ds, a lot of bottom heavy spells here. It's interesting because 4th level, even in Pathfinder 1 or 3rd edition D&D, maybe even in 5th edition D&D now that I think about it, 4th level was always weird. Like 3rd level, you were so excited to get to 3rd level. Even in earlier editions of the game, you had a fireball, lightning bolt, haste, slow. And 4th level in Pathfinder 2 is a weird level. There isn't really anything that just jumps out. Like at 3rd level, you get fireball or lightning bolt. At 5th level, you get cone of cold. And at 4th level, you get Reaper said, does any lower level spell get a good boost at 4th? Yes. Invisibility, which is why invisibility is S plus tier across all 4. Invisibility going to greater invisibility or improved invisibility at level 4 Reaper, it's a massive bonus. 4th level was always a weird level. At least in 2nd edition, you can heighten the cool 2 and 3. Yeah, AK, I do agree with you. I think Pathfinder 2 at least gives you that you can make your fireball a 4th level fireball. You can make your flaming sphere a 4th level flaming sphere. The other thing too, and I think we should, I'm going to revisit this. We got a super chat from Damien. He says, move gaseous form back up to a C. You were right. Oh, okay. All right. I'll do it for $2. I mean, if someone telling me I was right, I'll move it back. Does that make up for the rest of the list? K-Swistek, I am not familiar with Sickening Radiance. My 5e lore is a little weak, to be honest with you. What do you think about moving Fly to A, since Occult doesn't have Airwalk or Aerial form? Kevin, that's a great observation, Kevin. I 100% agree with you. We did love Aerial form and Airwalk from Primal. As a reminder, boom, here we go. Airwalk, Aerial form, both of which we thought did it better. And we don't get that for the Occult list. So this is going to be their best option. And so for them, if you want to have that sort of aerial 3-dimensional mobility, Fly it is. And so from that perspective, it's an A. That's a really good catch. Good job for him. The other thing I wanted to check here while we're here is, I know this is the case. I just want to see. I always forget. I know sleep heightens at 4, and I just want to remind myself, how much does it get that much better? Right? So baseline sleep is horrible. But at 4th level, they fall unconscious for 1 round on a failure or 1 minute on a critical failure. They fall prone and release what they are holding, and they cannot make perception checks to wake up. And we're kind of going off the edge here. When the duration ends, the creature is sleeping normally instead of waking up. Now, it's still incapacitation because it's sleep, but a 4th level sleep is a 5-foot burst, so you might be able to hit 1 or 2 creatures, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3, but probably 2 creatures. They will be unconscious for 1 round, which means they're out for 1 round. They fall prone, and whatever they're holding, they release. You're talking about potentially eating up 2 to 3 actions, and that's after the turn that they spend unconscious. So that's 1 action unconscious, or 1 round unconscious. The second round, they're going to have to spend an action to grab their sword, grab their shield, grab their other weapon, grab their staff, grab their wand, and then spend another action to stand up. So that's 2 to 3 actions. A lot of those, always, by the way, are manipulate, are going to trigger certain reactions. And while they are sleeping, they can't even make perception checks to wake up. And when the duration ends, they don't even automatically wake up. They're just sleeping. So they still have to make the perception checks. Which, to be fair, they'll probably make, but they could fail, to be clear. They could fail. And more importantly, if it was just 2 guards and you cast the spell on them, unlike normal sleep, which is if it's unconscious after 1 minute, it wakes up automatically. In this case, if I cast sleep, the creatures do fall asleep. They slump to the ground, they drop their spear and their shield, and they slump to the ground sleeping. After the duration ends, which is 1 round or 1 minute, they're going to still be asleep. And as long as we're not fighting, like if we're trying to sneak into the guardhouse, they'll be asleep. So I do think that sleep gets a lot better at 4th level too. I think the 1st level version of sleep, I think we ripped that spell a new one because it was not good. Geez, got spells everywhere. Here we go. Yeah, so yeah, we gave sleep an F originally. Right here. We gave sleep an F originally. And I think it does get a lot better at 4. So, I mean, that's something that I think is worth maybe kind of noting because it was so bad at level 1. But I really do feel like it does kind of redeem itself. Probably, it's still an incapacitation spell. Okay, so it still does have incapacitation. When we can't just ignore that fact. But so I'm not going to mark it S. But it has some out of combat capabilities, and I think it's actually a solid A. Calm emotions is very powerful, and sleep can be on that same level. I understand that incapacitation is going to keep it from being top tier. And if someone really wanted to fight me and argue that it should be a B, I would even probably somewhat agree with you. But I think that I'm happy with it being an A tier spell. So yeah. To be clear, total entropy. Yeah, on a success, they get -1 status penalty to perception checks for 1 round. So it is absolutely nothing. Did we talk about enlarge yet? No, but we talked about it for primal. I don't know that we actually went in and officially discussed it, but I don't know that we actually put it on the list. We should have done that for primal though. But we did talk about it at the end that, you know what? No, maybe it was I think it was on YouTube. I think some people, I don't remember who said it on YouTube, but somebody said on YouTube, hey, you should enlarge it. We were talking, hey, does anybody else remember good spells that get really better at level 4? And I don't think we mentioned enlarge. Now enlarge is only arcane and primal, so it's not an occult. But for our primal list, I do think enlarge is another one that's worth mentioning. So kind of going back to talk about our primal list, going to huge. I mean, getting an additional +2 status bonus to damage is pretty good. But boy, getting another 5 feet of reach. So at this point, you're 3x3, and now your reach is increasing by 10 feet. So 5 foot reach out to 15 feet, 20 feet if you have a reach weapon. And that's on either side of your 15-foot base. So that's 15 feet plus 20, 15 feet plus 20. That's 40 feet plus 15. That's 55 feet that you could, a diameter that you control, which is for pretty much almost every Pathfinder 2 fight, the whole fight. Being huge is monstrous, and can be very, very powerful. I mean, even you're 15 feet tall vertically, right? You're a cube. So with 20-foot reach, you can reach upward. You can hit creatures that are flying that are 35 feet in the air. So very, very good stuff. Anyways, back to Occult. But, Occult still being dragged down by the weakness of curses. Still being dragged down by the wonky, weird stuff that tends to being in the occult spell list, and that really showed up here in our 4th level, boy, it definitely showed up big time. Let me catch up with chat real quick, see what you guys are saying. Sleep 4 could easily be A or S, probably A if we include fluffy bullshit. Sleep getting a redemption arc, nice. Reaper, yeah, I mean, yes, a -1 perception check, only recorded successful use of basic sleep. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it can happen. It's cool that it does, but, and yeah, knocking out mooks without violence. By the way, sleep has a 5-foot burst. It's a great, that spell gets a lot better if it's widened. So it might be one of those rare instances where the widened spell feat, meta magic feat actually is pretty good. Level 4, blistering invictive is pretty good. All right, bringing it up. All right, 2d6 fire damage will save. They get a +4 bonus if they don't share your language. You get 2 more creatures, and you do 2 more d6. So it's 3 creatures, and they're taking 4d6 persistent damage, and they're frightened 1 on a fire. Lampley says Widen doesn't work on sleep. Pathfinder 2, why? Why do you do this to us? And we already know the answer. We know what the answer is. Okay? It's Paizo's razor. It would be cool. It would be fun. and we don't want to. Ugh, how disappointing is that? That's very disappointing. Lampley, you ruined my night. I can never remember which one of these sound effects is the I can never remember which one of these sound effects is actually the sad trombone. I do have a sad trombone somewhere on here on my soundboard, but I can never remember which one it is. Seriously, Derek, where is my wizard hat? Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, we got work to do. That's the long and the short of it. You know, we have work to do. We need to come in here, like, you know, these. I like to think that I know a fair amount about RPGs and game design, but you know, these conversations with you all are very informative for me because, you know, this is a collaborative process. I'm not just spitting this out into a void. That's why I do these as a live stream instead of just me doing a video, because I want your feedback. I like going to the polls. I like hearing your thoughts and your opinions and your feedback, because you all are very smart, very intelligent gamers who also have probably played this game just as much, if not more than me, and have used these spells and maybe seen some different experiences. So I think it's important, but this isn't just, you know, for views, right? This is an academic approach to sort of assess what is the nature of the magic system in Pathfinder 2 right now. What are some of its key core problems? What is too strong? What isn't strong enough? And what are the spells that excite us? And what are the spells that we are, quite frankly, kind of disappointed from? And then we can take all this data. Quite frankly, we're probably already there, but we can keep going. I mean, we will. But we can take this data and then we can try somehow through the Patreon, through, maybe some sort of Pathfinder Infinite, or maybe even some Kickstarter product someday, to try to figure out a way that we can, you know, adjust this and fix this. Because I think that'll be, I think it'll be I think there's a lot of stuff that we can improve. That the game's been out for close to 3 years now, and we've learned a lot about what the game is. Again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, 5th edition having the life cycle that it has of going on, 9 years now, 8 years, very crazy in this day and age. I mean, I would expect to see Pathfinder 2. I mean, think about it right now in Paizo, there is a Pathfinder 3 design team. They haven't announced that. They won't announce that, but we're 3 years into this product cycle. They've pretty much published all of the original Pathfinder 1 classes, more or less, except for the really weird ones that came out at the end, like the hybrid classes. And, they're thinking about it. They're thinking about Pathfinder 3. So that doesn't mean we're not going to get it next year, but 2024, they might be crazy to do it. Pathfinder 1, Damien, went on for 10 years, and I think they would even tell you that was a mistake. They allowed 5th edition to get too much market share. They know that. Their biggest concern is going to be how do you play the 5th edition 5.5 or whatever they're doing for 2024. We know that a new version, new edition, new version, new update of 5th edition is of Dungeons and Dragons, which is called that. It's coming out in 2024. It's the 50th anniversary of the game. That is massive hype. So you have two options. You can either try to beat it to the punch, and I think that seems like too early. If you try to come out in 2023, you're going to be too early. My sense is they want to have a game out in 2025, because that will be, and maybe shortly thereafter, maybe not fully Gen Con, but I basically what they want to do, I think they want to be positioned for a group of players. I am going to guess, if I had to guess, that the next version of Dungeons and Dragons, I think, is going to be even less mechanically complicated than the current version. If they make changes, they are going to make the game less complex. They're going to make it available to even more of a wider audience. And you are going to have some percentage of 5th edition players who were happy with the level of mechanical complexity of 5th edition, such as it is. And Pathfinder would be very smart to be right there, entering into the market space with a brand new version of their game that is specifically designed to even pick up a fraction of the 5e base. By the time we get to 2024, there's likely to be 10 million or more 5e players. If Pathfinder 3 can get 5 or 10% of that, it will, be a huge, huge swing for the game. So that, if I had to guess, I think we're going to see Pathfinder 3 in 2025. That's my guess. I think 5e would be better if it had less rules about how many feet they go and how many rations it takes. Kevin, you're completely correct. And I like those rules. I mean, this is like one of my favorite games, recently. It's this Forbidden Lands game, which is a very crunchy survival based game where you have to, make sure you don't starve to death. Not only can you die from monsters, you can die from starvation, you can die from exposure. But think about even in Pathfinder 2, we're running our Pathfinder 2 players are very, we're nitty gritty gamers, but how many Pathfinder 2 players hand wave ammunition? How many Pathfinder 2 players hand wave rations? I mean, they made rations light one bulk for, 10 is for a week. Is it a week of rations in Pathfinder is light bulk or something? It's insane. It's insane. And 5th edition is sort of stuck in this place where, when it came out, they were trying to just do this big mea culpa and go back to the past and try to bring back the people who maybe have lost interest in the game. But they never expected it to go the route that it is gone. And the route that is gone has been very, very narrative storyteller focused. So a lot of these old survival simulationist aspects of 5th edition, like how many miles a day you go in hills terrain versus forest terrain versus plains terrain, those just seem like dinosaurs. It just seems like a relics of the past. And I agree with what Kay Swistek just said, which is it does feel like the game is stuck. It's stuck between this middle ground where it doesn't have crunch where it needs it. It has too much crunch where it doesn't need it. And I agree with you very much. So anyways. So next week, we're going to have some live streams. No, the APs are going to be every other week. So next week, no Adventure Path. Tuesday is going to be a free-for-all. I'll probably do a live stream show because we like doing them. Maybe we'll do a GM thing. I don't know. I want to do something fun. We want to change it up a little bit. We're in a process now. Now that this AP is launched, we want to change some things on the channel. Bring back some content that we know our patrons like, that even our YouTube viewers like. And if you are a YouTube viewer and you've been ever thinking about signing up for the Patreon, now is the time to do it. It's really, really taken off more than we could have ever expected to. If you want to play Pathfinder 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week in a persistent, ongoing world, join as a knight. Get into our Northern Reaches mega game. If you want to be a part of our conversations as we start trying to figure out a way to maybe make the kind of Pathfinder 2 content that we'd like to see, that's going to be part of the Patreon. It's going to be available to the patrons first, maybe exclusively. So I cannot stress enough that we'd love your support. And if you're here and you're paying attention to stuff like this, it means you're our kind of person. It means you're our kind of people. The type of person who takes these things seriously and it likes to debate and likes to discuss and doesn't just, want an echo chamber. You want to explore the game space and figure out what's good about it and what's bad about it. So yeah, I mean, maybe we'll talk about non-Pathfinder 2 games. I mean, I take for granted that everybody knows every RPG, but they don't, and we can definitely talk about them. So, I'm gonna play some Pathfinder 2 tomorrow. I'm gonna be level 13. Got those sweet level 7 spells. Yeah, my cleric kicking ass. We had a really good fight, really good couple of good fights, and my cleric felt really powerful. It was a lot of fun. It was really good, and I'm excited to cast like a fully powered up like Inner Radiance Torrent at this level. It's going to be really, really high. A lot of D4s. It'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully you all get some good gaming in for the weekend. If not, and again, if you want some more gaming, you definitely cue the Discord. We play more than Pathfinder 2 there as well. I should note we play a lot of other games as well. Indie RPGs, old school D&D. We got community games going all the time. So definitely check them out. Our IRT going to get nerfed. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining the community. Thank you for anyone who tipped or supported, chimed in with a cool, interesting comment. Like, subscribe if you're not already doing so. Take a look at the Discord. It might be the right fit for you. And we'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Peace.